Alright. Now, unfortunately, I have no way of telling if my mic is cracking until we're live and people hear it. I actually recorded with XSplit today a couple of different times, too. And everything was fine.
So that looks, I'm listening.
We're good?
Yeah, I'm listening to the stream. You're good.
Okay,
so if you just want to restart the intro, and then we can start an official recording.
Alright, guys. Here we go again.
Well, just for the sake of the audio guys are listening to this on audio, right? It's one thing for the stream.
Well, no, this is all post anyway. It doesn't matter. Like I put that shit in post later. We don't need to start the starting screen again. Don't worry, bro. We're good. What I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna press on this recording here and get us started, and we'll be good. Trust me. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, after much ado about technology, we're finally starting, and hopefully everything holds up for the entirety of the cast, but I don't want to say anything, because God only knows. All I know is that half of this glass is not Coke.
I know, I got a beer here.
Panic is still abstaining after the crazy wedding that he was at. I don't think you're joining in the St. Paddy's Day drinking celebrations.
St. Patrick's Day?
Yeah, it is. It is. None of us are
Maybe
wearing
later.
green. I've got green behind me. That's as close as I've got. I've got nothing else for it. But regardless, ladies and gentlemen, we got to restart this as if everything went well. For those of you listening, not on live stream, not on YouTube, but if you're getting this through your RSS, God bless you, because you're probably going to have hopefully the least most contrived, beat up recording of everybody else. But welcome. It is the first episode of the Technical Alpha Podcast. Mr. Black, how are you doing today, sir?
I am phenomenal. I'm ready.
Phenomenal. I am phenomenal. Mr. PanicSwitched, third guy, could possibly be Portuguese or Mexican. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing all right. How about you? Everyone's now complaining about my noise gate, but I think it should be working all right now.
No, you should be fine. Dude, if there's a noise gate problem, I'll worry about it later. But you should be fine.
All right.
Just eat the mic. We talked about this. Pretend it's a phallic object that it is, and yeah, there you go. Yeah, it'll be fine. Everything will be fine. At this point, as long as everything doesn't completely burn to the ground, it's all good. Mr. Black, I just realized you might have to re-host this.
Oh yeah, shoot.
Yeah.
I'll do that.
Regardless, while you're doing that, we are here, and we are going to be talking today about our top 10 games. We were trying to decide how to best do this, in terms of getting you guys to know us a little bit individually, and of course, getting to know Tabin, Panic, Mexican third guy, whatever you end up calling, whatever meme you come up for him. So we needed to come up with something we thought that might be.
Guy.
Hashtag third guy? Okay.
Third
yeah,
guy
Panic's at his sync, but it doesn't matter. We're going to pretend he's Asian dubbed. That's what we're going to do. He's Asian dubbed. But yeah, we're going to talk about our top 10 games. We came up with this, for those of you guys who have been following kind of the technical alpha thing, from like literally the announcement, or the covert announcements that we were making over the course of the last, not even a month. Like this has been kind of a straight vertical ramp up until today. We have the Google Plus page that has our top 10 games and our top 10 movies. And today we're going to just stick with the games, because I have a sneaking suspicion we could probably go on for a long time just about the games themselves. So, gentlemen, do you two have your list in front of you? We talked about how we wanted to kind of tackle this. We're going to kind of go one after the other, so that we're not just listening to one person's voice for long periods of time, and give her from there. So let's get right into it. I'm going to start with the third guy, because I think that's important. We're going to start. Yeah, we're putting you on the spot, bro. You got no time for warm-ups.
Spot, man.
So these are in no particular order, right? So like nobody's put their list necessarily in a way that's definitively 10 to 1, but we're gonna just hack it through anyway. So what's your number 10 pick, sir? Tell us a little bit about that game.
Ooh, We're gonna go with Deus Ex, man. The original, not any of the newer ones, but like the one that came out in what, like 2000. It's probably one of my. It was just a very interesting game at the time. It was a shooter RPG hybrid, and overall, I just loved. It was one of the first games that had like true freedom of choice, and for me at the time, that was mind blowing. I probably played that game for a couple hundred hours and never beat it, and then had to go back when I was older and do it again.
Beauty.
Yeah, I've never played Deus Ex, so I can't really chime in on that at all. It's just one series I never got into. Adam, did you play Deus Ex?
I never did. I never played the originals or anything like that. I just ended up playing what was it? Human Revolution was the reboot-ish type deal that they did here a few years ago. People were raving, and of course I've heard about of Deus Ex for years. And I never played it because neither. Yeah, no, and I knew about System Shock all the same, like all that stuff. But I wasn't a PC gamer before, or at the time that came around, so I never got a chance to really play it. So when I played Human Revolution, I didn't have like any nostalgia. I didn't have any rose-tinted goggles to put on. And though apparently it is a very critically acclaimed game, I got about 6 hours in, and I could not maintain my interest after 6 hours. So I put it down, and I couldn't go back to it. But I know that the early Deus Ex games got crazy love, so.
Cool. No,
just the first
like I said,
one. The second one was terrible.
Yeah.
Oh, the second one was terrible?
I wish I had played it, but I didn't. I actually watched Panic at the time he was streaming for a little bit. I watched him play it off and on stream for a little bit, but besides that, I haven't even watched the video on the game or know what it's about or anything like that. Is it an RPG like game, or is it like Mass Effect type thing?
It's actually probably, you can say it's like a predecessor to Mass Effect. It's a shooter, like your first person shooter, but you have stats and abilities that you'll gain and grow over the course of the game. Inventory management is really big. Like you can't carry a massive sniper rifle and a ton of other guns. You kind of have to pick and choose and manage your inventory for what you can and can't do. And the big thing was just, it was one of the first games that really had elements of choice where, you know, if you kill someone, it changes the way the later game plays. Like you might lose access to a faction, or they may hate you forever, type of thing.
Cool.
Oh, okay. Beauty. Yeah, no, they had a lot of that in the newer one that I had played, and it certainly, I know the game is good, but like a lot of games that are good, it doesn't necessarily mean that I can just, dive in and love it. But Panic for sure. A couple things. Technical Alpha first thing. Turn yourself up about 1 dB and then restart your webcam. Just exit and come back in on that, because it is like a 3 to 5 second delay on that bad boy.
Technical
it's not
Alpha, it's the first cast.
It's not even dubbing anymore. It's like we're in two different movies entirely, and you're talking. It's just like, okay.
How are we looking now?
Nope, still a million miles away. Doesn't. I think it's probably because it's. I don't know reasons. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
Working perfectly yesterday.
Yeah, I know. We were on for like 5 straight hours. Everything was butter. We were like, oh, we got this now, boys. Nope.
We're in
Mr.
beta.
Black.
We're in beta. Yeah.
We're in beta. No, we're not even close to beta. Mr. Black, what's your number 10 spot? So you got Deus Ex from Panic. What do you got?
All right, so I'm trying to put all my games in from 10 down to 1. So I'm actually gonna try and put this in an order. I know that you said at the start, like, we're just kind of naming 10 games off.
Okay.
I'm gonna try and progressively make this the best game of all time.
Okay. All right.
Coming in at number 10, and I fought with this game. I wanted to get an indie game up on number 10. I'm not even going to bother doing honorable mention, but that the game that just kind of squeaked in, and probably the game on here that I played the least amount, and it's the freshest out of everything on this list, Shadow of the Colossus. That is coming in at number 10. I'm putting that in at number 10 just because you got me into this game. You said, Jeff, you got to play this game, and you came over my house for those that were watching the stream, and we sat there for 14 or 15 hours, and I played this game from start to finish in one sitting. We went semi-crazy. We at like 3 o'clock in the morning, we were laughing hysterically over nothing.
It
felt like we were drunk, but it was that moment that you and I haven't had together as gamers
a long time
since we were 16 years old. It really felt like I was in your basement again. We were sitting down, watching each other play games and having a good time. So it was a combination of hanging out with my bro, playing a game, but also at the same time, the game was incredible. The fact that
This is a good game.
You could jump on these massive bosses, and each one was different in how you could take them down. There was the strategic element to it, and everything just felt so grand. I mean, there's so many games that you fight these big bosses, and sure, they're big, but they're just big for the sake of being big. Shadow of a Colossus literally made it feel like you were against a giant, and it was just amazing. You climbing some giant's leg, stabbing them in an eye. You know, you're hanging on for dear life on some hair on the top of their head.
The ragdoll was so good.
I mean, it was just an amazing experience. And not only that, it was kind of an old game too. And I was playing it for the first time, and the game was out for years, and it still felt fresh. It still felt like it was something that that if it could come out today, we would still be praising it. I know that that last game that we played that came out, you know, the one that's visually incredible, with
Last Guardian.
the pet, the Last Guardian, very similar. Similar feeling. Obviously, for me, Shadow of the Colossus is a way better game for a number of reasons, but it was, if Shadow of a Colossus came out now, in this type of, you know, graphics on a PS4 or Xbox One, it would be like number 4 or number 5 on my list, if it was just refreshed. Obviously, there were some controlling issues and stuff like that, some camera issues, but in games like that, it's almost unavoidable. But you basically, for me, I could disregard all of those negatives because it was just an experience. It was something I'd never experienced before. Shadow of a Colossus, number 10.
Yeah, no, it's good.
Is this the right time for me to come in and say that I've never actually played Shadow of the Colossus and never really saw the hype?
Shame on you.
Well, I
Shame
mean,
on
we
you.
can't say that much because we didn't play Deus Ex. It's like, you know, it's kind of whatever, right?
The game just never did it for me. It looked cool, but like I was never a fan of just like Team Eco games in general. Last Guard, especially when I was watching you play Last Guardian, I was like, this just looks frustrating.
It was.
Well, it's because The Last Guardian was frustrating. That would be why. No, the Shadow of the Colossus, I think I have it in my list as well somewhere. And you know, for me when I played it, it was you know, like for everybody else, and you touched on some of these points too, where when you're fighting it was the scale of the game was crazy. And at the time, there certainly weren't that many games that did scale as well as Shadow of the Colossus. It might have even done scale better than everybody else at the time, for all I remember at this point. But it was also kind of awesome in how simplistic it was, not in terms of it being easy, because it certainly wasn't a flat-out easy game, but it was, I mean, it was simple. You'd get on your horse, you drove off into the distance, and then all you did was fight bosses for the entire game. That's all there was. There was no, you know, little, you know, shitter enemy dude running around that you had to kill for experience. There was no anything else. You went from point A to point B. You fought a massive friggin' enemy, and you moved on to the next one, and the story kind of progressed with almost no dialogue either. So it was a very simple game, but done super well. So I agree. Yeah, awesome game for sure. Definitely. I'm like almost positive I have this in my list here, unless it got swapped out. No, I do. So there you have it. Yeah, no, very, very good game. My 10 spot, I'll try and match Jeff here. I'm probably going to fail because I didn't even think about this. I'll try and say that like I'm going to attempt an order here. Probably going to fail miserably, but I'm going to attempt to do it. I'll make my number 10 then Project Gotham Racing 2. I wanted to have a racing game on this list so bad because for the longest point in my life, racing games were all I played. Like that's all I wanted to do was play racing games. And I loved the Project Gotham Racing series up until, I don't know, 4 got a little weird and beyond that. And then eventually it got basically internally at Microsoft replaced by Forza. Forza just kind of took out Project Gotham's spot, especially when they came out with the Horizon branch of Forza. So But at the time, Project Gotham Racing was my life. Loved it. Loved everything about it. The kudo system was super unique at the time and was incredibly fun and didn't feel shoehorned into it. It didn't feel like it was a racing game that, oh, by the way, we have a point system that if you take this corner in a sweet way, we're going to give you like 30 fake points and be like, yeah, bro, good job. Like, it didn't feel like that. It was one of the first racing games I put a lot of time into trying to get the best possible times on tracks. I wanted to, and the soundtrack was fantastic in the first couple of games. It was hard for me to pick between 1 and 2 because 1 for nostalgia of like the first game in the franchise, but I think 2 was probably the best game that they ever produced. And coincidentally, I want to say it was one of the first games to include the Enzo Ferrari, which is on the cover, if I'm not mistaken, as well. Which that fancy Ferrari that they made after the founder of Ferrari, and definitely an OP car in the game for sure, without question. But super fun game. And I still remember it was actually the game that I got my first racing wheel for. Like that was how much I loved it. I wanted to get a race. Terrible. I can't drive manual. Terrible, terrible, terrible. But yet I still wanted this racing wheel, and I was at my grandmother's when I got it, and I played this game on this TV from like 1987 that was just the crappiest looking TV you've ever seen in your life, but it didn't matter because I played that and another game on this list that we'll get to later on. But we're gonna plant Project Gotham Racing 2 at the number 10 spot.
All right, well, Project Gotham Racing. Okay, so I remember playing Project Gotham Racing when you got your original Xbox.
Yeah, the first one,
along with some other games. I do agree with you that Project Gotham Racing 2 is definitely the best Project Gotham Racing. I do believe number 2, they also added in the Xbox Live stuff for the game as well. That was a thing. But before I judge you too hard, I have to hear what your other 9 games are, because the fact that you're putting Project Gotham Racing 2 on your top 10 games of all time.
Yeah.
Oh my God, bro.
It's a subjective list. If I sat down and said objectively, I'm going to pick the top 10 games of all time, 70% of this list wouldn't even be on the top 10. It's top 10 games for me. Otherwise, we're talking about like a pre-baked list that the internet has already decided over the course of the 30 years of gaming that has existed. We already have like the de facto top 10. And I'm sure all of our lists, we might have 1 or 2 that make that list. And then the rest of them aren't even in like the top 50. They're off in some magical land somewhere. But definitely a couple of my games are I would say a top 10 of all time. But subjective.
I know it's subjective, but hey, it's a podcast. I'm gonna call you out on your subjective garbage, all right? Because Project Gotham Racing 2, I can actually think of better racing games off the top of my head. I'm not even a race guy, but I will say I probably played Project Gotham Racing the most out of any racing game, simply because the kudo system was so cool. Like, you're drifting around every corner, and this was, before, to my knowledge, before Fast and the Furious and all these other things, where it was right around that time. So it was, it was a cool thing. It was in. But I mean, if I were to play Project Gotham Racing 2 now, I don't know how I feel about the game. I don't know if it's gonna hold.
Bro, I've got Project Gotham Racing. I've got number 1 here, and I played it not long ago. Fire. It's still good, man. It's still good. Now I have now personally, if I picked a best racing game on top of that, it wouldn't even be Project Gotham. It's just I really love Project Gotham Racing 2. Like Forza 2 is probably is probably what I think the best racing game of all time. Forza 2.
That's what I thought you were going to put on your list.
I'm not mad or sad, Adam. I'm just disappointed. Like, you're telling me Project Gotham. You haven't played 10 other games that are better than Project Gotham to you.
It's all good. It's all good. All right.
I'm sad for you.
Before you start ranting in Spanish, tell me what your number 9 game is.
I'm gonna actually go with the superior racing game, Need for Speed Underground 2.
Oh, I was playing that like 2 days ago. That game is so good.
That game's dope.
I know, man.
Riders on the Storm, bro.
Amazing selection of cars. The tuning was really fun for an arcade game. It had struck the balance of being like not close to realistic, but still playable and fun. The campaign was fire. Soundtrack was amazing.
Yeah.
And Brooke Burke, always a bonus.
Brooke Burke was good.
Well, yeah, not an acting capacity, but, back in the day for games. Yeah, it was one of the few games that still had like actual live action cutscenes, man.
Well, to this day, I still don't know if Need for Speed Underground 2 and then the follow-up Need for Speed Most Wanted, I still don't know if the acting was intentionally camp or if they were just legitimately that bad, and I want to believe that they intentionally did it.
I'm pretty sure they did that intentionally because no one can be that bad at acting.
They
were trying to ham it. They were trying to ham it up.
I remember Need for Speed 2. We're talking Underground 2, right?
Yeah, the one where you're effectively
Underground
making
2,
like racer cars.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. And
I know,
the
Underground
only
2
thing,
is good.
The only thing I ever done in these Need for Speed games was run away from the cops. That was
this
pretty
one
much
didn't
all I
have
did.
cops.
Those are the later games.
Yeah,
These are the later games.
Yeah, see, I'm not sure I played much of Need for Speed 2, so I think I was into the Hot Pursuit ones or whatever they are. But Need for Speed was always a good franchise, and it's still, to my knowledge, it still comes out with games, or at least it did on the last console, on the PS3, and they were selling relatively well. So, and that was during the whole, once again, Fast and the Furious phase where everybody was into the souping up cars and stuff like that. So it was a successful game. Yeah, I'm gonna judge you a little bit for that being number 9, but
dude, the soundtrack is so good. As soon as you said that, all I could think of is the title theme. So good. Was it Snoop Dogg and then the Doors? Like, how do you fucking get any better than that?
And they had some amazing EDM in it too. Just driving along. Again, like my top 10 list isn't necessarily by sheer quality of the game. It's like memory and like amount of hours I sunk into the game and how many times I would just keep coming back to it. Like Underground 2 was definitely one of my college go-tos when I was stressed out. Like I'd be like, oh, exam time to study. Let's play some races in Underground 2.
Yeah. Absolutely. For those of you who are just stopping by and they're seeing Panic Japanese dubbed, I know exactly why he's Japanese dubbing right now. It's because he and I are both going through Audition, so he's got like a 300-ish millisecond delay plus, and his audio hitting what our ears are. And since he's not using XSplit, like I have my webcam delayed, he doesn't have that opportunity. So we'll figure that out for next week. I already have a solution to that problem. We'll be good to go.
But if you
for
guys
now,
are
just
listening to this on audio,
it doesn't matter.
Like you're not gonna know anything.
If you're listening right now on your iPod, if you're back in 2004 and you're or you're listening on the way to work, if you close your eyes and listen really, really hard, you might be able to hear how dubbed Panic is right now, but maybe not. I don't know. We'll see. Next game, Mr. Black. You're number 9. What you got?
Number 9. I'm gonna go ahead and put out. Some people may be surprised that this is coming in at number 9. Some people may have this maybe a little bit higher on their list, but I'm going with Halo 2 coming in at number 9. Halo 2 is the GOAT for FPS on a console. When I think of a shooter on multiplayer, I'm thinking Halo 2. Halo 1, fantastic. It's what made me fall in love with the franchise. It was a just a sleeping beauty. Nobody knew how good this game was. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, you bought the game and took it back, and got it again because you didn't know. I didn't. What the hell is this?
So
I didn't want.
So
this.
So what happened was because I was a spoiled brat as a kid, Mom was lined
Halo
up
2?
at the EB Games. No, not Halo 2, Halo 1. So Mom lined up at EB Games before the gate was even open at the store in the morning, and Jeff and I were at school. And she got the first Xbox in Halifax, basically the original Xbox, and we got it home from school. And it came with 2 games. It was like a $6,000 freaking. It was something dumb. I can't remember. I saved up all my money.
I remember it was over.
It was over $800. Yeah. And this was back in 2001, right? Like that's a long time ago. That's a lot of money. $800. So Halo was in the original bundle, and I didn't know what it was, and it wasn't actually the game that I chose for my bundle. Like they gave me the wrong game, and so I took it back and exchanged it, and then I ended up buying it like a week later anyway. because it turned out to be God tier. And then that was the game that we played the most on that Xbox by far. It was just Blood Gulch snipers for like 14 straight hours.
And I remember it vividly, like going down to your house and just playing Halo all the time, campaign, and then, you know, multiplayer, local multiplayer, anything. We'd have the guys over. And so I fell in love with the game, and obviously when Halo 2 came out, my expectations were really high, and they surpassed them all. The game just got better. All the things that were wrong with the first Halo, they improved on. The campaign was great, but the real...
Double Needler.
Exactly. That was dope. The big thing was it was the multiplayer online Halo 2, some of the best shit of all time. There's only one shooter that I can think of that's better than it. Halo 2 is the GOAT for online. That's it. I mean, just multiplayer online. I have another shooter on my list, but
remember, I don't know if you know this, but when they went to shut down Halo's servers for the last time, there were 2 or 3 or 4 guys that ran a match, so they couldn't shut them down until they were done, and they just ran this online thing for like 2 weeks or something crazy like that. I can't remember what it was, and they just kept it alive for as long as humanly possible, and it became a news story everywhere. And then they eventually did it, and they shut down the servers, and everybody, you know, collectively wept for the end of Halo 2 multiplayer.
The guy's Xbox died or something.
Oh, was that what it was? Oh,
yeah, like because he couldn't shut it off. He just had to leave it running.
Yeah,
you just have to leave it running. Couldn't let it go.
Yeah, that's true. No, Halo 2 was was absolutely incredible. I remember when Jeff and I we played so much of it.
I loved it.
Yeah, well, at least
later on. Let's forget the later ones.
Yeah, so I remember Jeff and I played so much of the game. We were actually not that bad multiplayer. We were pretty nasty at multiplayer, and we joined a local tournament for Halo 2, and we go to the place for this tournament. I'd never forget this. This is absolutely ridiculous.
I can't believe you remember this shit, bro. That's funny.
I remember vividly. We walk in.
You know what? I remember it too. Go ahead. I remember it too.
So we walk through the doors of this like little boutique thing. For those of you who are in Halifax, it was I don't think it's there anymore, but it was one of the only like cafe gaming things in the city at the time. It's a Quimpool somewhere, right?
Yep.
The right-hand side of Quimpool going in from the Rotary. So we walk into this, and it's tiny because it's an old building, and it was 1,000 degrees Celsius in there, and there were sweaty gamers. So it was like the walls were sweating, everything was sweating, I was sweating, people were sweating, controllers, everything was just drenched. We get inside, we wait for our game, and we're looking at our competition, and they're not all that great. And we're like, you know what? We've actually got a chance, because if we won that, we'd be going to. It was like this was regional qualifiers. We'd be going into like Toronto or something for like the next round, and we were all pumped because we just wanted a trip to get the hell out of Halifax. So we go in there, we size up a competition, and we get our first match, and we're against these 2 kids, and one of these kids, I swear to God, one of these 2 kids was as white as a sheet. He'd never seen the light of day, and even inside, I don't think they turned a light on. I don't think he's seen UV rays of any kind. Everything's just dim. His eyes were like, I don't know if he licked a toad or what the hell he did before he went in, but his eyes were this big, and they were sunk into the back of his head. He looked like if you made an Oblivion character and you put all the sliders to the left. Just everything was fucked up, just crazy. He looked like he hadn't slept in a week. And he was the most determined looking kid I'd ever seen in my life. And we sit down, and I was like, all right, this guy means business. That or he's just dead holding the controller, or one of the two. I don't know which one it is. And we get into this match, and we got smoked.
Oh, yeah, wrecked.
We got absolutely pummeled. And lo and behold, they went on to like go, I don't know how deep they went in, but they smashed everybody. They just won everything. They absolutely crushed it. So like we could have gotten a little further in, but no dice. We got absolutely wrecked. But that was a good time. Halo 2, fantastic game for sure. Good choice.
Your first esports experience was destruction.
There you go.
Oh, absolute pump, dude. This kid guaranteed was like hyped on every drug you could keep yourself up on for like 3 straight weeks.
If you're listening to my podcast right now, look at me now, bitch.
Look at me now.
Where are you at now? I'm running a podcast, motherfucker.
He probably made like 600 grand on Halo. Yeah,
He's
that
dead.
too. Yeah.
He's literally dead right now. Because that guy was on the brink of death.
He might be sleeping on his pile of money
already.
He might have actually already been dead when we were fighting him in Halo 2. It's entirely a possibility. All right, so my number 9 is I think everybody. I don't think I'm going to get flack for this one, and if I do, you guys are terrible. Silent Hill 2. Huh? Anything? Anything for the peanut gallery on Silent Hill 2? Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Jeff's gonna go get it in his 16,000 game collection back there.
There it is.
There it is.
Silent Hill 2.
Silent
Great
Hill
game,
2. Silent Hill 2 is my favorite horror game of all time. And and obviously just one of my favorite games of all time. I think the Silent Hill universe, before it got really weird with like Silent Hill The Room and stuff, and they changed from Team Silent over to whoever the hell ass backwards people started developing those games were. But up to that point, I think Silent Hill is one of the best written universes in gaming, and a master at telling you only what you needed to know, and that was it. And not knowing everything else was what made that game absolutely friggin' unsettling and terrifying. I don't scare easy at all. Like, I don't scare, period. In fact, that's why when everybody was like, you should play this game because it'll be fun to watch you. I'm a robot. I'm an apathetic asshole. I've got nothing. Just, that's all there is. I don't get scared. So when I played Silent Hill 2 as a kid, and it actually disturbed me, I was like, oh, this is some good shit. It's like, this is what it feels like to be scared. So
I can't actually play horror games. Like, I've never played the Silent Hill games. I've seen people play them, and I get scared for them. Like, I absolutely hate jump scares.
Well,
I like get freaked out like it.
What was so great about
Not a
Silent
jump
Hill?
scare guy.
It wasn't even necessarily jump scares. It was the atmosphere in Silent Hill. It was the storytelling in it. They did have their jump scares for sure, but there's just something eerie about Silent Hill. Even the shitty movies that they made, they even still had this eeriness to them that a lot of these other horror games or horror genre game movies didn't have.
I think the first Silent Hill movie they made was actually a lot better than people gave it credit for. I think it could have been done better in a couple of places, but I thought it was a really good, like, in general, like, horror movies go on Netflix, everything's rated like 1/10 star. Like, everything's just like this.
Yeah, it's a shame that the game got canceled for the PlayStation. Was it the PlayStation 4?
Oh my
VR?
god!
It got canceled.
Guillermo del Toro and friggin' who was he going to work with? Was it Kojima he was going to work with on that? No, it wasn't
I'm
Kojima.
not sure.
What's his name again?
Something that I pronounced improperly for sure, but
yeah.
It's a shame.
But
It's a shame that
it was Del
canceled.
Toro. It is Del Toro though, right?
Yeah.
Like that's
Yeah.
This is,
Yeah, it was Del Toro.
yeah.
It's
So,
a
yeah,
shame.
anyway, that
It's a
would've
shame
been
it got-
great.
It would have been great at the VR demo they had for it was wonderful, but the Resident Evil 7, I think, honestly, even if Silent Hill came out, I actually think Resident Evil 7 would have been an even better game than Silent Hill, believe it or not, because that game was done so very well. But hey, you know what? Even if it was something remotely close to Resident Evil in terms of atmosphere, I think that the Resident Evil 7 took a lot out of Silent Hill's playbook, and when they came out with the demo, they really studied it.
Oh, no question.
And they saw how much the public was like, "Oh my god, this is actually really fucking creepy." And Resident Evil 7 came out and just blew everybody away. So yeah, it's a shame that it didn't come out, but Silent Hill 2, like you said, I'm on board with you 100%. And to be honest, I didn't put this on this was one of my number 10, a list of them, and I didn't
Like
put
the
on there
swap
because
out? Yeah.
I figured you were going to have them on there. We're going to talk about it anyway.
Yeah.
But just because in terms of genre, now, if we ever had a podcast where we're talking about our favorite horror games, this would definitely be in one or two.
That's a number one. That's number one for me. Absolutely, yeah. No,
number 9,
really
Adam.
great game. I think that anybody who hasn't played Silent Hill, 2 is probably the best one to play. Now the problem is 2 is so old now, and the controls are so clunky and outdated and horrible that it's difficult. If somebody hasn't played it by now, it's not a game that you can so easily tell somebody to go play because it's so awesome and have them, experience it the way that it was experienced even in the first 5 years of its release. And avoid the HD remakes because they redid voice actors and everything else, and it was absolutely atrocious. Do not do that. If you're going to play it, play the original. But very good game. If you have a chance to watch somebody play
Way
it,
to be a hipster about it.
That might be it. Yeah, no, the HD remake's really bad. Like, really terrible. Avoid that like the plague. But anyway, Mr. Panic, Mr. Tabin, we're gonna move on to number 8. What is in your number 8 spot, my man?
This game, it holds a very near and dear place in my heart, but it's also an extremely sad game for me. Banjo-Kazooie.
Oh, I know why, because we kind of talked about this the other day. Yeah. That game is so good.
I didn't tell you guys the story, but Banjo-Kazooie. I'm going to talk about the game itself first. It's probably in my opinion, it's one of the most well-polished and well-put-together platformers ever made, especially like 3-dimensional platformer, because it's really hard to do those correctly. Like Sonic tried and they failed. Mario managed to do it correctly, but their games just varied a lot. Banjo-Kazooie in general had everything from like puzzles all the way to jumping and platforming, and then the combat was really fun in the game just overall. And the game was just huge. Like you can do a ton of stuff in it. And absolutely loved it. Now, the really sad part is I never actually beat the game.
It's so funny that you have a game on this list that you've never beat it. It's so crazy to me. I think that's like you've been talking about streaming and shit and doing your little like Gundam figurines, little weeaboo shit. I think you need to do Banjo-Kazooie at some point and actually finish it.
Yeah.
Here's what happened. So I was playing this game I was completionist. This is like one of the few games I went full completion mode on. I had everything pretty much nearly maxed out, like all the puzzle pieces and shit. I got up to the final boss fight, Gruntilda. I was like, all right, gonna do this. But again, it's 1998. I was like 12, 13 years old. So I was just like, oh, I can't finish it tonight. All right, I'm just going to play it some other day, when I don't have school or whatever. So weekend rolls around, super excited, absolutely pumped. I'm going to finally beat Banjo-Kazooie. Turn on the game, get a phone call. Now, this is back in the day. There ain't cell phones, not quite yet. A couple of years will be out. My dad had one, but they weren't really you didn't really have more than one cell phone in a household.
They were like this big, and you had to plug it into like a
regular
battery.
Phone rings.
Yeah.
Now this was back when I couldn't multitask so well. So here I am. It's like my aunt or something calling, and she's like asking me questions and like, "Oh, where's your mom? What's going on? How are you doing?" and stuff. And I'm sitting there holding the N64 controller, getting ready to load up my Banjo-Kazooie game, and I accidentally press the button that says, "Hey, you're gonna delete? Do you want to delete your save game?" And while I'm talking to my aunt, I'm completely zoned out, and I see the thing. Oh, press this button. Boom! I press the button. Save game gone. Literally, I go dead silent when I see the save game get deleted, and my aunt's like, "You okay?" I'm just like, "Oh no, what have I done?"
Oh my!
And it dawned on me.
I'm honest, bro. I'm gonna be honest, bro. I still to this day, I would not be talking to my aunt. I'd be salty. I hold grudges.
It wasn't her fault.
Fuck that aunt.
Remove her from the equation. You're no longer family.
It's like I was at like 99% completion on that game, and that's why I can't go back and do this all again. It's just not gonna happen. I just went and I'm just like done. I'm done.
I hurt for
I'm
you.
excited for ukulele.
Yeah, ukulele looks like it's going to be pretty. It's going to be pretty solid. I mean, you hope it's going to be pretty solid. But Banjo-Kazooie was so good. Banjo-Tooie was also fantastic. I think the best part about the you touched on how good of a platformer it was, or 3D platformer, is that the thing that a lot of other 3D platformers failed at, specifically, I'm going to call out Crash Bandicoot for having some of the worst ever spatial, it's not, you can't call it spatial awareness, but it presents you with something that makes you think you are where you are, and you're not even in the same area code. You go for a jump where you think it is, and you weren't even close. Not even remotely. But Banjo-Kazooie, I mean, Mario 64 did an incredible job of that as well, but I think Banjo did it even better. But to be fair, it came out way later than Mario 64.
Oh yeah, no, Banjo was late game N64.
Yeah, so they had a lot to work on, those kind of bits, but really good. I loved all the Easter egg type stuff they had in it. Rare was such a fun
in the game
kind of out there. Rare, one of the last companies before Microsoft bought them out and just fisted them into the ground. One of the last, what I consider true original old guard gaming companies that you didn't have to have something super serious. It was okay to be kind of jokey and whatever with your whole concept. So yeah, absolutely fantastic game. For sure. Mr. Black,
Yeah.
what's your number 8?
I'm back up again already?
You are back up again already, bro.
Okay. All right. Coming in at number 8. I'm going to have to go with Resident Evil 2. Coming in at number 8. And
okay, all right.
You had a horror game on there, and Resident Evil 2, I had first played this on the N64. I remember specifically one, and I hadn't really played many horror games at all. It was just kind of a new thing to me. I actually can't even remember like an actual horror game that I played before Resident Evil 2. I didn't play Director's Cut or any of that stuff before.
Oh, what?
I know I've played it and beaten it since then.
Okay, but
Resident
before
Evil 2 was the introduction to the franchise for me. And I remember being in the mansion, and there's a door to the left that you walk in as soon as you get in the big mansion, and then you go around a corner, you go through a little like dining room, and you go through another door, and then to the right, you run down this hall, and there was the boarded up windows. And I remember a zombie breaking through the boarded up windows. I was playing it. I remember it like it was yesterday. I was playing.
Are you talking about 2, or because you're describing the mansion from Resident Evil 1?
Is it 1? I don't know. But either way, maybe I'm getting them all mixed up.
And it was a dog.
It was number. No, there was a dog too.
The dog that broke through the window.
I think it happened in two different things. I know that there was one that they smashed through a glass window, but there was a boarded up area at one point where zombies broke through like wood. But I remember it just being a massive jump scare for me. And that was, I remember sitting in my living room. I had the lights off. I was playing it, and that shit happened. And I screamed, I jumped, and at that moment, I fell in love with Resident Evil. I fell in love with the horror genre. And that's, it even sparked like loving horror films and everything that was horror, because I was young. I never really got, I had spooky stories told to me, and I've watched scary movies, but it wasn't something that I actively went out to, consume.
Yeah,
and after Resident Evil 2, it was I've always been kind of searching for that high again of being that terrified. And the closest thing, once again, I'm coming back, which I should put it on this list. I'm coming back to Resident Evil 7, where it brought back a lot of those feelings and that excitement of being scared in a video game, legitimately being afraid. And not only that, it was just a great game. It was just an amazing game. Great puzzles, good action. The controls are definitely fucky right now in comparison, to what we have out these days.
It's an early VR game. It's going to happen, right? I mean, let's be fair. Resident Evil 1's controls were absolutely god-awful. To be fair, all of the Resident Evil games have terrible controls. I don't think there's been one Resident Evil game that has had good controls. Some people might say Resident Evil 4. I don't even consider that a Resident Evil game. That's just an action it's an action
game. It's a good game, though. I like Resident Evil 4.
Very good game. Very good game, but 4 for me is when it stopped being Resident Evil and it stopped being like something totally different. But regardless,
had an identity crisis in the middle, and it just like started doing random things.
Yeah.
Like 5 and 6 didn't even register on my radar.
Well, what happened
registered on ours because we had to play it.
The movies, there's a movie called 28 Days Later that came out.
Yeah, Fast Zombies.
They introduced the Fast Zombies, and the movie was a small budget movie. I know this isn't about movies, and when we talk about movies, you won't get me to shut up. But it was a small budget movie, and it did well, and people were like ranting and raving. Even its predecessors weren't bad. And they introduced that whole fast zombie where it's almost like an infection. It's like not even, they kind of even got rid of the term zombie. It was the infected. And then that's when Resident Evil kind of adapted that or adopted that premise for their zombies. And it definitely, in Resident Evil 4 they did it right. But a little bit later on, I think that formula only worked for so long. But in terms of classic Resident Evil 2 is a combination of a great game, scary, great atmosphere, lots of puzzles, and just a damn good time. And it was a lengthy game too. It took you a while to do that game. And not only that, it had replay ability. You could play it again. It was just, I loved it. Resident Evil 2.
Did two have different endings? Because like one had different endings, if I'm not mistaken. Did two have alternate endings?
I'm almost. If I don't know for sure, but I want to say that you could play different points of view from different characters. You have different things, right? So it definitely had replayability. You could beat it once, then play it again, and then have different experiences throughout the game, which was something that was relatively new back then as well.
Yeah, I like 2 quite a bit, but unlike you, my introduction to the series was Resident Evil 1 Director's Cut. So for me, my favorite Resident Evil is Director's Cut, and I still remember when it was Cameron and I played it together. And that name means nothing to anybody but Jeff and I, but buddy of ours that we grew up on the same street with, and he had the PlayStation 1, and we played that game together, and we played it, and at one point, the memory I attached to Resident Evil Director's Cut is we played it in its entirety in one afternoon, beat the whole thing in one afternoon, and we played it while in the background on like an old ass boombox. We repeated I'm Blue for the entire playthrough. So now every time I see every time I see Resident Evil or I hear that song, I get like the opposite thing gets conjured up in my mind. Yeah, and then all of a sudden I'm seeing like, oh, you were almost a Jill sandwich, like the stupid crap that's in that freaking game, the terrible dialogue. But yeah, Resident Evil 2, super awesome, very good game. You know what my number 8 is, gentlemen? My number 8 is Jet Set Radio Future. Understand the concept of love, motherfucker.
Love it, dude.
Oh my god, dude, this game is if you don't know about it, then you love it. I think there's only 2 categories. I don't think there are people that have played or know of Jet Set Radio and don't. You can't be serious. You must know about Jet Set Radio Future.
I'm serious. I don't. I've heard about it, but I've never played it or seen it.
Well, this is where we drop the third guy. All right, so we need to replace
so now it's a 2-man show. So one sec, real quick. I've got the power over here. We're just gonna.
We're just gonna
do.
See by. I mean,
this.
It was fun.
It's been good. It's been good knowing you. Oh man.
Had a good run, guys.
I mean, I can understand if you're younger, if you didn't hear about it, like, because it was, even if you were there at the time, it was still a relatively niche game. Like, it wasn't something that was super widespread, but if you knew about it, odds are you really liked it. No, it was the Xbox.
Yep.
The original Jet Grind Radio was Dreamcast for Jet Grind Radio, and then Jet Set Radio Future was an Xbox release. And one of the best game soundtracks of all time in that, and incredible use of cel-shaded graphics. It's actually the game that got me to love cel shading as a graphical art style, and just a fantastic game in general.
It didn't have an original Xbox. I was a Dreamcast guy.
Yeah. So Jet Grind Radio would have been on your console. Similar. Yeah, there it is there. There's Beat on the cover. Look at that cover. Isn't that friggin' dope?
Fire.
Isn't that sick art?
Yep.
Oh my god.
So there was 2 different versions that you could get of Jet Set. You could buy the original. The most popular one and what introduced a lot of people was the Jet Set Radio Future and Sega GT Racing combo. That was not for resale.
It was just with the Xbox. It was a packaged one that you could get.
And that was one that introduced a lot of people to Jet Set. An amazing game. I'm right on board with you there, Adam. In fact, if I could, I love our theme song that we have. But if there was any way that we could ever have the Jet Set Radio Future as the theme song of the podcast, I would use it. Oh my god, dude. The music in the game, incredible.
Oh, it's so good.
The animations were so well done. And the animations played so well to the console. It was like it was. I mean, if we look back at it now, it probably looks dated, but at the same time, it probably looks
cel
playable.
shaded, so
like,
it's not bad. It's not bad. It actually aged pretty well.
What's so great. That was what's so great about it is they didn't try to go for these realistic skateboarders like say Tony Hawk or something like that. It was a cartoony. It knew what it was. It was fun. There was so much replayability for it. It had a great single player. It had all kinds of fun other things you could do. Just an amazing game. Just yeah, I'm
incredible.
So mad I didn't even think about it, bro.
I'm still waiting for somebody at Sega to wake the fuck up and go, we don't have any IP. We could probably crank out an HD remake of this and put it on the Nintendo Switch and make some pretty good money off of it. Like I would buy a Switch for an HD remake, a properly done one of Jet Set Radio Future. Okay, that's a lie. I wouldn't because I actually think the Switch is a giant waste of money, but that's okay. So Jet Set Radio Future.
I like my Switch, man.
Hey, that's a discussion for another time. I can go deep. I can go deep. I can literally go
deep.
Mandingo deep right now in a Nintendo Switch. But
passing
all the
out if you're not careful.
If you're enjoying the game, which I hear the new Zelda is amazing and it's great, and I'm happy for you, but fuck paying $400, $500 for Zelda. All right, but great game, Adam. Jet Set is dope.
Yeah, no, very, very, very much one of my favorites for sure. So number 7, we're getting there. We're coming down. I'm trying to get to number 5 before we take our break, and we're actually on pace pretty well so far. So, Mr. Tabin, what do you got for number 7 on this list, bro?
I'm gonna go with Half-Life 2. I was going through my list. I'm gonna go with Half-Life 2 on it.
Okay.
I mean, that came out right when I was in my freshman year of college. I played through the game and it was just mind blowing at the time when you can use a gravity gun and just mess around with things. Just overall, like the story wasn't super memorable. The graphics and stuff for the time were really good. I just don't know what it was about the game that struck me, but it wasn't just me. Like my entire freshman dorm, I think we all ended up getting into a competition of trying to see who could beat the game the fastest, but the most thoroughly at the same time. And it was I don't know. I'm just super disappointed they never finished episode 3, and we're probably never going to see the ending of the story. Maybe Jeff's kids will see it someday. Who knows? It's
so you know what? When I came way late to the Half-Life game, like super late. Yeah. I yar-har-har'd the shit out of the first one and Blue Shift, like when I was a kid, when I was basically just looking for games to play on my shitty PC because it couldn't run anything, and played like 5 minutes of those, and my computer was crap, couldn't play it. And then when, like years later, when I got an actual computer that could play games, I picked up Half-Life 2 and all, episode 1, 2, and I played through it. And I think my take on the Half-Life series is I think it's a little overrated. I think that Half-Life has some of the best animations that have ever been done in a video game, period. And
gameplay is just really tight also.
Yeah, the gameplay is tight, but it was boring. It was tight, but it was
so long stretches.
So like everything felt so dragged out. It was like you took a Stretch Armstrong and you wrapped that son of a bitch around the world. That's how stretched out some of that game felt. It was just kept going and going and going. I have
to agree.
But it very good, very, very, very good game. Voice acting was fantastic and all that as well. Really, really good stuff, but just boring. Would I like to see it completed? Absolutely. I think it's insane that Valve never went in on it, and I don't think there's an excuse under the sun that they could come up with.
Yeah.
But, will we ever see it? Maybe after, Gabe finally stops chasing the Jenny Craig dream and just kicks it. I don't know, but like,
I'm at the point for Half-Life 2 where I'm like, guys, you don't have to make Half-Life 3. Give me a graphic novel and tell me how the damn thing ends. It's been like what,
just
like
a story.
10 years now?
Yeah, give people.
I just want to know what happened.
Holy shit!
Like I want to know what happened. What happened?
Well, close that out.
Here's my thing: is I played Half-Life 2. I think probably about a year into my YouTube and streaming career. People said, "Have you ever played Half-Life 2?" And I was like, "No." So I played Half-Life 2. And then there was like an extra game as well, or an expansion or something like that I played as well.
Episode 1 and episode 2.
Episode 1, episode 2. Okay, so there you go. So I played
Yeah.
both of those. And you talk about the story, but the thing is and Adam kind of hit it. I have to agree with them, and sometimes I just like disagreeing with Adam just to disagree with Adam. But I'm with him here. It's like I just don't give a shit about the story. Like I don't remember anything. Like I there are certain scenes that I remember that were wow moments. That was like wow, that was great. But overall, like the entire story, I don't really remember much of it, and I played it like 4 or 5 years ago. Nothing really stuck to me. I agree with you that the controls were nice and tight. It was a fun game to play. It wasn't a chore to play, but it wasn't one of those games that I woke up in the morning and I was like, dude, I can't wait to turn on Half-Life 2. It was like, hey, I'm playing Half-Life 2.
I can agree with that.
It was just one of those things. But when I was playing it, the time flew by and I enjoyed the process, but it definitely wasn't one of those games that made an imprint on me where I was like, man, it's a real bummer we're not getting Half-Life 3. Like, to me, I could care less. If Half-Life 3 came out, yeah, I'd play it for the sake of playing it, but would I be excited for it? No, I wouldn't give a shit. That's where I'm at
I'd
with
say it had technical excellence, but it didn't have like that emotional impact, I would say.
Yeah,
Like,
it was
for me,
kind of
technically excellent game.
It was kind of
where it was like,
robotic.
all right, cool.
Yeah. I actually think, like, I'm not 100% with Jeff on that. Like, he's 50-50 with me here. I actually thought the story was good. I just thought the game itself dragged out. I didn't mean the story dragged, just the gameplay. Always, like, it just felt like normally gameplay has some kind of undulation to it, and Half-Life had a lot of periods where I felt like I was on the kiddie train ride, where it was just going around in a circle over and over again, and then all of a sudden it was like I was playing Roller Coaster Tycoon and somebody just cut the track off and it threw me into a fucking chasm. Like, that's basically what that game was like. And then it would be another period in the 7th circle of hell, just another kiddie ride in a circle again. And over again. So that was my gripe with it. I thought the story was fine, but I would just like closure for people, for sure. I think would be nice. But Mr. Black,
Yep.
what do you got, bro? What's your number 7?
My number 7 is Super Mario World. This is a Super Nintendo game. I do have it over there on the wall. I'm not going to go grab it, but it is my childhood. It's a combination of it just being an amazing title. That's one thing that Nintendo has always done. I shouldn't say always. Now, let me bite my words. The majority of the time when it comes to Mario games on their consoles, they have done a good job with them. I mean, there's... I'm going to continue to talk about Mario as this podcast goes on, but Super Mario World was not my introduction to Mario, but it was one that really cemented me as a gamer. I remember getting the Super Nintendo for Christmas. I remember when me and my family, we lived in a little 2-bedroom apartment in the Spry, and I remember waking up. It was Christmas morning, and I come out. I was expecting to get my Super Nintendo, and there was a box that was a big box, and I had opened up everything, and my parents were like, "You're going to save this box for last," and I figured that was my Super Nintendo was in there. So I opened up the box, and in the box, it was like that old trick where there's a smaller box in the big box, and then I open up another box, there's another box, and we ended up getting down, and eventually I remember opening up, and boom, there was my Super Nintendo and Super Mario World and an extra controller, and I remember sitting down and playing this thing all day, every day, it was my life. Like, even when I had beaten the game, I had kept playing it. I'd had friends over. I want to show my friends, how awesome the game was. We grew up and I know I grew up in kind of lower middle class. Like, we didn't have a lot, right? We didn't have a lot of money. We didn't have anything. But one thing that my parents have always done for me, and I'm very grateful, is they always gave me basically what I wanted at Christmas time. If there was one time of the year where my parents and I know that now that I'm older, I know that they couldn't afford it. They probably put it on credit cards. They probably borrowed money, whatever the case may be. But I just remember every year as a child, It was that one time where we weren't poor, and I had always got what I wanted, and it was just a magical time for me to get that. And a lot of my friends were also pretty poor, didn't have money to get consoles and stuff like that, and so it was nice to have my friends over and show them this game that they couldn't have, and pretty much me and my buddies would always go and beat the game over and over again. We do 2-player, and we, even playing it for months, we would find new secrets and new areas in the game, and finding the whole Yoshi thing in the World 2 part. When you get off the first island and you get on the second island, there was a little secret Yoshi place where you can get Yoshis. And I remember discovering that like 9 months into the game, and this is before internet and where you can look up guides, and it was just an Easter egg of awesome. And I could talk about this game forever. It's just an incredible game. It was smooth. The levels were great. It was the Mario we always loved. The music, everything. It was magical. It was like Disney magic. Super Mario World, the more I'm talking about it, the more I want to throw it up higher on my list. An amazing game. It's a combination of nostalgia, a great game, and just, Mario, Nintendo doing something that they've always done well, and that's Mario.
Can I take a game off my list and put Super Mario World on?
Jeff
completely forgot about it. It's
selling.
I love it, dude.
Integral part of my childhood, man. Like the same thing. Like my cousins, my cousins had the SNES. My brother and I had the Genesis. So they'd come over and they'd play Sonic at our place all the time. But when we'd go over, Mario World was the shit. Like that and Street Fighter, but like Mario World by far for years. We played the shit out of that game.
Yep.
Yeah.
Actually, the cousin that just got married.
Oh, really? Is that who it was? Oh, nice. Yeah. So when for me, my experience with Super Mario was with Brian at the end of the street. He had the Super Nintendo when we were growing up, and yeah, I played a good amount of it for sure. I didn't play it all that much. I think I might have played it to completion once, but I think I think if you're ranking Super Mario games, it's hard to not put that one in the top 3 spots, if not the top spot. Like it's hard to dismantle. Some people probably also go with Super Mario 3 as a possible top 3 for Mario, and then it goes all the way to Galaxy, probably the first Galaxy or Galaxy 2, when they start critically dropping Mario games for sure. But regardless, I think it's an absolutely fantastic game. Love it to death. You can play it now. It plays beautifully. Graphics are fantastic no matter how you get at it. Aged like fine wine. It's fantastic. Really, really, really good game. I'm going to have one that guaranteed is not on either of your lists without question, and that is Lost Odyssey. Lost Odyssey. I'm the Japanese RPG guy up in here. So Lost Odyssey, I don't know if you've got it.
I'm a JRPG guy. They don't make it on my list.
Yeah, so Lost Odyssey, I mean, there's a whole host of Japanese RPGs I probably could have put on this list. But Lost Odyssey made the list in their stead because I think it represented something very important, and to me it represented that Japanese RPGs in the traditional turn-based style are still totally fucking awesome. You don't need to reinvent. Square, if you're listening, 2 things. 1, fuck you for the Final Fantasy 15 DLC. I called that shit out way long ago, and here you are doing it. And 2, just plain fuck you. But this game, Lost Odyssey, proves that it can be done and done well, and it wasn't even to a budget like a Final Fantasy game. If they had a Final Fantasy budget to produce this, Mistwalker could have blown this thing out of the water. But very good, solid, basic turn-based combat in Lost Odyssey, kind of bringing in some almost some Legend of Dragoon-ish type deals mixed with the little Final Fantasy VIII. Remember in Final Fantasy VIII with the gunblade, if you hit R1 at the right time, you do extra damage type stuff? Yep. So they kind of take that in Lost Odyssey with the ring system.
Quick time events.
Yeah, so they do that with the ring system where you'll apply your statuses or your things with your weapons based on, if you accurately hit the button at the right time, things of that nature. The story was really good. The music done by Nobuo Uematsu, the god himself, the man that scores all of the good Final Fantasies. All the Final Fantasy music that you probably know and love is done by that man. Yep. And he did an amazing soundtrack for Lost Odyssey. And then on top of that, I think it's one of the, outside of the English dubs being absolutely terrible in the game, the story is incredibly well done, and Kaim as a character is incredibly good as well. And it's a mature game in that it tackles a lot of mature themes. A lot of Japanese RPGs attempt to do mature themes, and it ends up just being like, here's a talking cat, and like, we're gonna go that route now, kind of thing, where Lost Odyssey went like down the road of what would it actually be like if you were like invincible, if you lived forever. What would that emotionally do to somebody if you lived for 1,000 years and you watched your friends grow old and die, and then you watched the next generation grow old and die, and you travel the world and you see the events of the world unfold, and no matter what happens, you keep living through that entire experience. What that eventually does somebody and where they end up as a person at the end of it all is really well done. And to emphasize that, they had an award-winning short story writer come up with a bunch of short stories that were mildly animated and stuff in the game called The 1,000 Years of Dreams. And just by themselves, I think you might be able to buy them separately from everything else. Incredibly well written, and more importantly for us English-speaking people, incredibly well translated, because a lot of times that stuff gets lost in translation. But they did an incredibly good job. I think I just said incredibly about 15 times describing this game. I need more adjectives. But very, 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 very good game. And I spent 120 hours in my first playthrough. It's got what I consider to be the hardest optional boss in any Japanese RPG. And everything. I like everything about it. It's great. There's very little I don't like about it. I think it's an incredible Japanese RPG. But I think the reason why I wanted this on the list instead of like say a Final Fantasy VIII, which is my favorite Final Fantasy, or Legend of Dragoon, which is another one of my top Japanese RPGs, was that I wanted to talk about the fact that Japanese RPGs don't have to reinvent the wheel to be good. People like Japanese RPGs for a reason. And Square, who is one of the few people still making Japanese RPGs at a AAA level, needs to realize that you don't have to keep doing that shit, because it does more harm than good. If, like, for example, if you watch the sales of the Final Fantasy 13 series franchise, it literally decays at a rate that's insane. It just tanked off, and it just got worse and worse and worse. And 15 sales over the course of it will do similar things. And then when I can't remember the developer's name, came out with Bravely Default. What developer was that? I can't think of him now. But when that came out, I specifically remember Square being quoted as saying, we're pleasantly surprised that somebody came out with like a traditional Japanese RPG and it sold so well. And everybody collectively went, well, fucking what do you know, Square? And you come on.
Yep.
Anyway, that's my mini rant for that. I could go for 4 hours on that alone, but that's okay. We've got to move on. Number 6, before we get too heinous with the time limit right now. What you got, Tabin? What you got, buddy?
I'm sorry, man. Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. I mean, I like 7
now
and 8.
let me explain. Now, if we were just taking it on, again, I kind of did my list holistically. If we were just taking it as the core title of Final Fantasy VII versus Final Fantasy VIII, Final Fantasy VIII would have made this list. But overall, like, Final Fantasy VII has more significance to me. Just one for how it was when I was younger. It was just like the most epic thing ever. But then they had like follow-up games. Dirge of Cerberus was terrible, but Crisis Core to me was also huge. Like, Crisis Core is actually one of my favorite games. I just felt like it was too niche to be included on my top 10. And I just feel like overall the Final Fantasy lore kind of evolved. Like, yeah, it's definitely overhyped for a lot of people, but it just has significance to me. I don't know why it resonated with the characters. I enjoyed it. I spent a lot of time with it. So for me, it might not have been the most technically excellent game, but I don't know. It just something about it. It just like stuck with me, and I felt like my list was wrong if I didn't have this on there. I don't know. It's just one of those things.
I don't know if Jeff modified, but I was expecting 7 or 8 to be on Jeff's list. I can't remember because I haven't looked at his list in a while, but I knew one of you two would have 7 or 8 on that list for sure. I mean, seven's the game that and people
it's
get
a safe game on a list.
Yeah, the longer you go, the more hipster people get about 7. They're like, nah, 7's not that good. Nah, Midgar was the shittiest opening to a game ever. Nah.
Yeah, well, we could say the same thing about Ocarina of Time, bro. We could say the same thing about that game.
Well, of course, but I think 7 was a really good game as well. I think it was. I mean, it's just impressive to see. It was similar to like a game that we're almost guaranteed going to be talking about with Jeff here, Mario 64. I'm 150% sure that's on his list. But it was like when you went from the jump from the Sega Genesis, Super Nintendo era, and you jumped into this next era with the PlayStation and the Xbox. And you saw you went from Final Fantasy VI, which by the way was also a dope game,
Amazing.
And then you jump in to 7, and just like your mind went, and you saw those CG scenes at Midgar in the beginning, and you're like, oh God, Shinra, do me! Like there's just so much awesome in the beginning, and then you played Midgar and you wanted to kill yourself, but then you got out of Midgar and it was okay. So it was fine. You just need to get out of that first area, and everything was okay. But Sephiroth is one of the greatest bad guys of all time.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
6, 7, 8, and 10 were all good Final Fantasies.
All right, Mr. Black. What you got, bro?
We're on number 6.
We're on number 6, yeah.
Number 6, I'm going to go ahead and, since we've already talked about it, I'm going to go ahead and say Final Fantasy VII. I'm right there.
Surprise!
I didn't have a chance to talk about Final Fantasy VII. I'll make it super quick, but Final Fantasy VII is what turned me into an RPG lover. It was such a huge leap in terms of graphical, like you said earlier. It was just seeing those CGI moments where you're just like, oh my God, how many times have we seen the summons come out and do their whole CGI bit, and you could watch it over and over and over again and not get mad at it. It was amazing. The characters, Cloud is one of my favorite characters of all time. The Buster Sword is iconic. I will eventually own one, a replica of some sort. Will you
put that one through a TV?
I would. Red 13, Barrett, Sephiroth. I mean, the characters are the best, in my opinion. The characters are the best pack of characters ever in a video game, ever. And I mean, I could put Final Fantasy VII up higher on my list, but I'm not going to because we just talked about it. But you're right. I have played the game several times. I played it a couple times as a teenager. And I have even played it recently as an adult. I wouldn't say recently, a few years ago. And you're right, it does age. And there's a lot of reading in it, but the thing is the story's great. It does drag on at certain points. It's not technically the perfect game, but in terms of it just changing the industry and just it's Final Fantasy.
There's a reason why. There's a reason why people have, for the longest time, asked for a 7 remake. You hear about other games, being asked to do remakes, but 7 is, less so in the last, 3 years, which is, ironically when Square Enix decided to finally, bite the bullet and do it. But there's a reason why people asked to have it redone, and I don't even want to start about that remake, because I will actually...
We've gone at it before.
I'll die. Yeah. My heart will stop.
We'll have a whole other cast about that one.
Yeah, it's gonna be game over. So I could fill up a whole podcast just dumpstering Square Enix for that stuff.
Final Fantasy VII, guys, there it is for me.
There it is, good stuff for sure. Fantastic game. What do I got? I think we're getting to the point where I have to decide where I want to shuffle some of these into this list. Oh man. You know what? I will go with this. I think the order for the rest of this is relatively close anyway. I'm gonna say because it'll be quick and we can move on to Shadow of the Colossus, which we already talked about way in the beginning. But Shadow of the Colossus for me, even though I've already said my piece, I'll just summarize it again real quick. I don't think anybody has done scale quite like Shadow of the Colossus. I don't think anybody has done has gone outside of the regular video game formula as well as Shadow of the Colossus in a long time in terms of, not utilizing the same gameplay loop over and over again that many other adventure games fall victim to. I think it's just an incredible game with an incredible soundtrack and just the right amount of story to make you think about what might, the rest of it be. It gives you, that imagination churning similar to a Silent Hill type deal. And artistically, I think it's one of the prettiest games that's ever been put together. As well, so I won't go into because we've already talked about Shadow, but definitely one of my favorites for sure. Picnic. We're moving quick. We're on to number 5. We're in the top 5 now. We're gonna do this one, then we're gonna go to break. So we've got 5 around the table. What's yours?
Ocarina of Time. Actually,
Oh.
I'm gonna again. Ocarina of Time's on the list right now, but it's gonna very quickly go off as soon as I finish Breath of the Wild and be replaced by Breath of the Wild in the slot. It's again like I know Jeff's like shaking his head, but it's definitely I can see it being an overrated game. But for me at the time, and especially for what the N64 could do, it was an exceptional game in my opinion. In that it had a lot of technical excellence, the game design and the game setup was just, for lack of a better word, divine. It was like very well put together. Mechanics were fun. You can go through and you can do a variety of different things and just have an all-around good time. Like, I don't know. It's one of those games that just kind of stick with you again.
Listen. Jesus, fuck me.
But probably within the next month or so, Ocarina of Time's coming off the list to be replaced by Breath of the Wild because Breath of the Wild is literally Ocarina of Time on steroids and crack and all the other drugs that hype you up.
That Black Tower heroin.
I wouldn't have any experience with that.
I'm not gonna hate on it. I never got into the game as a kid. In fact, I was almost going to replace one of my games my next one that's coming up with Zelda Link to the Past for the Super Nintendo, which I think is one of the greatest games made of all time. And
fantastic.
Whenever I buy a handheld console, whether it's a Game Boy Advanced, a Game Boy 3DS, a Game Boy whatever, I'm always looking for Zelda Link to the Past because it's in my opinion, it's the GOAT of Zelda games, and I'm very biased because I never really gave Zelda much of a chance after that. I was the type of guy that always thought Zelda was Link, and I didn't even know that Zelda wasn't Link until about 5 years ago when somebody tried to get me to play Ocarina of Time, and I got to the part where you actually meet Zelda, and I go, what the fuck? This is Zelda? I was so confused, and the whole chat was like, dude, you didn't know that this is Link? And I think that's partly because
Zelda was a girl, Jeff.
Zelda, sorry, of course, but the thing is, it's just like Samus is a girl, right? I just didn't know, and I think it was mainly because the marketing for it was really poorly done. Zelda, they always say Zelda, 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 and they show Link, and I was one of those filthy casuals that just didn't get into Zelda, so I'm at fault. But I tried to play Ocarina of Time. I can appreciate why people think it's the greatest game ever made. It definitely, if I had experienced it as a kid, it's kind of like a Final Fantasy VII in the same ways of it revolutionized gaming. It was a combination of great storytelling, an awesome characters, and just wonder and awe. There's so many cool things in Zelda, but it just, in my opinion, it didn't age all that well. It doesn't play all that well, and I just think it's overrated. I just do. And I'll have a lot of people that'll agree with me, and I'll have a lot of people that'll disagree with me, but I can totally get and see why people think that it is the greatest game of all time, and I can't hate on it, but it's one of those things where I don't think anybody that plays it in the last 10 years can honestly say for the first time, that it's the greatest game ever made or on the top. Maybe they can, but
it translated surprisingly well. When they released a 3DS version of it, I was surprised. It translated extremely well to a mobile game. Like back then, yeah, it was definitely a full console game. Nowadays, you're right, it doesn't quite hold up because it plays much better as like a mobile game of this generation than I would say a full console game.
Yeah, it's a good choice. I'm not hating on it. I just couldn't get into it.
My number
That's
5
fair,
is
that's
the
fair.
same game, just to package this together, so make it a little easier here, coincidentally. But so Ocarina of Time for me, I think personally, I find it to be one of the best games. Here's the problem. I know Jeff touched on this with people calling it not just one of their favorite games or one of their top 10s, but like one of the greatest games, if not the greatest game of all time, which it gets tossed around as frequently on the internet as the greatest game ever played or ever made, I should say. So the trickiness and my favorite game journalist Jeff Gerstmann talked about this in a podcast years ago when somebody asked him what's the best game of all time. And his answer is Pong, because when you say what's the best game of all time, everything is in this microcosm, this little time capsule bit. When a game is released, so much of its impact is based on the time in which it's released and what it does to the game industry at the time of its release. And so if you do that, and you have to put a game in the top greatest, objectively, not subjectively, it has to, because otherwise we're only going to be picking games from the last fucking 5 years, and then a scant few games that operated in a 2D space, where once they mastered the 2D space over the course of 20 plus years that they had in it, that they mastered the 2 dimensions, and then you get games like Legend of Zelda and some of the other 2D classics that we got to enjoy at that point, right? So when you do that, then Pong by like de facto becomes like the greatest game of all time, and it kind of sounds funny, but in that regard, it has to be at that point because it's what kind of started the whole thing. But for Ocarina of Time, I think that's why so many people conjure, Ocarina of Time's name when they talk about the greatest of all time, is because when it was released, it wildly changed the 3D it's a 3D platform adventure. It's like it was one of the first games that started bringing in more than 2 genres. Yeah. Right? Like for a long time, games had like a specific genre, then you had like 2 genres, and now at this point where we are in 2017, you can't even really put a genre on anything. There's like 15 different genres crammed into one game, but it was one of the first to really combine more than a couple and do it extraordinarily well. And the Z targeting system by itself makes it one of the greatest games ever made because it wildly changed how everything in that 3D space was handled moving forward in gaming. I think the soundtrack is one of the greatest soundtracks of all time in that game. And obviously graphically, nothing on the Nintendo. Nothing on the 64 graphically holds up. 0 games on that console hold up simply by the fact of how the games are drawn. Nothing holds up. There's like 6 fucking triangles that make up everything in every one of these games, and some of them, while they look good, it's not like they hold up miraculously. It's not like you can do like a sprite work in Super Nintendo where everything looks dope because it's sprite work. You're talking about, it's like, look at Final Fantasy VII. Everybody always jokes about where the hell is Cloud's elbow. It doesn't exist because it's 2 triangles meeting at some like approaching 0 width, right? It's just, it was the what was available to them at the time. But I think for me personally, for Zelda, it was, my attachment to it. When I think of Ocarina of Time, I think about the first time I'm on the bridge with Saria, and she passes me the ocarina, and I'm hearing the music and everything, and that was a really awesome moment for me. And then to walk out into Hyrule Field and hear the ba-ding, da-ding, da-da-da-da-ding, and then the Hyrulean Field music kicks in, and it's like ding, ding, da-da-da-da-ding, and you're like, I was hooked, like phonics, just bitch, give me more of this game, I want all of it. And I don't think that there's a lot that I can, oh yeah, fishing for sure, bro. I don't think there's a lot that I can pick on that game. And honestly, despite the fact that it is not aged remarkably well in terms of graphics, and some people might argue controls, but I can map it through a 360 and it plays like sex, is the game doesn't have really anything wrong with it. There's almost nothing that you can pick on it for, except for Navi or whatever you want to call it, going, hey, listen, which I think everybody, some people might have liked that, but I think most people were like, after a while, they're like, all right, you were cute when we were a child back in Kakariko Village. Now you need to shut the fuck up. Shh, zip it. But you never got to tell her that, really. So it's unfortunate, but super good game. I actually, fun fact, before we move on and go to break, I just want to talk about how close for me it was to put Majora's Mask in here in replace of Ocarina of Time. Those two games for me are so neck and neck because in the Zelda franchise, they represent two very different games, but they were both done so damn well. And they still played to the theme of Zelda so well, and I almost gave it to Majora's Mask, but I stuck, because I'm a pleb. I stuck with Ocarina of Time, but very good game as well.
Very similar.
I did.
They were very similar games, but they were executed very differently, which was interesting.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so we've got our number 4 through 1 coming up, ladies and gentlemen. But we're gonna let the guys here. We're gonna go and use a little boys' room, whatever we need to do. Get some water, take a quick break, or a beer. Yeah, if you want to re-up on that. You got empties. Got to get some more of that brewski in you for St. Paddy's Day. We'll be right back. We're gonna take a 5-minute break. And then we will continue, guys. So sit tight. Thank you so much for joining us.
Saticity.
Hey guys, if you're enjoying Technical Alpha and are interested in supporting us, do I have a solution for you? We've set up this Patreon page to help us help you, help us and you. We've got a list of options that would make a used car salesman cry that provides you with a range of goodies for your support. Head on over to patreon.com/technicalalpha to see what's up for grabs. Like fancy badges and stuff? Subscribe to us on Twitch to get access to, well, badges and stuff. Not big on subscriptions. We have a button below that allows you to directly throw money at our faces. Careful you don't take those eyes out, though. We are so very fond of our eyes. Honestly, though, while we like to joke about the sellout, just being a regular listener is a huge help, and we're incredibly thankful for all of your support. Technical Alpha will continue soon, so sit tight. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Please, for the love of God, tell me my microphone is not crackling on XSplit because I muted my mic and I forgot because I did it out of habit. Please, God, please, God, please. Please. We're gonna assume it's okay for now.
You're good.
Okay, good. When I did it, as soon as I pressed it, I went internally. I went, oh no, that blue moon over here. Okay, all right.
So
you can.
what I decided to do for the last ones is, unlike you plebs, I actually own every single game on my list. I don't just talk the talk, I walk the walk. Every single game on my list I own. So
I own every single one on this list too.
Yeah, I think I still have all of mine. I just don't have them readily available to me in some god tier $1 million
I live in a
back
little
shelf.
box in the city. All right, I can't store everything here. Like I can't have a wall of games. I got my nerd thing.
I'm just poor.
All right. So we ready? We ready to get this going? We had our
I think
our first intermission.
We're
Fun
back.
bus rolling.
You know, we've only had
Jeff,
a few
did you see the sellout video, Jeff?
I didn't. No.
Did you see it? No? Oh man. I managed to make it happen today. I made it work.
Oh,
now,
you made it happen.
course.
You're shamelessly plugging the Patreon, which, by the way, we have an insane amount of money already. So thank you, everybody.
That's just insane. I haven't even looked to see if it's changed tonight. I'm scared. I don't want to do it. I'm actually so scared. I'm trying to touch nothing on my computer. Like I don't even want to like move the mouse.
We'll
I
save
don't
it.
want to move anything.
Till the end.
Yeah,
so
we'll save it to the end.
What number are we on, man? What's going on here?
We're on number 4, bro. We're on number 4.
Yeah.
We're making headway. We're into the good stuff now. This is where it's probably gonna we're gonna end up talking more and more about like some of these ones as we move down the list. So Panic, I believe you're up. I believe it is your time to shine.
4.
Yeah, number 4. What do you
probably should
got?
have done during the break. Yeah. This is where it gets tough.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm gonna have to throw down with Diablo 2. Just out of the games I have left on my list, Diablo 2 is
that's a pretty good game.
Yeah. I wish they made another Diablo after Diablo 2, but you know that's.
What a shame that they never went back to that. What a shame they never went back to that franchise. Such a wasted intellectual property. I know.
I wasn't super hardcore into Diablo like everyone else was, where they're still playing it like 10, 20 years from now. But I did play it for a couple of years. And honestly, for me, it was just like I played Diablo 1 like when it came out, and it was like one of my favorite games. And then Diablo 2 was just, it was like you thought you knew how to see color, and then all of a sudden they like give you like HDR, and you're like, oh, shit, this is
wow, this is what the outside looks like.
There's like 5 classes, there's like skill trees and shit. Oh my god. And now there's multiple towns. Oh my god. And it was just like and honestly, like I've sunk a lot of time into it. And it's one of the games that it does what Blizzard does best. They take a genre and then they optimize the shit out of it, and they make a really good game. I don't know why they haven't decided that, you know, we're gonna double down and we're gonna make Diablo 3. I don't know if that's ever gonna happen, but you know what? At least they, you know, I can say
if it does, I think a lot of people would be excited about Diablo 3. I think people would be really on board for sure. I think it would do gangbusters. No, Diablo 2 is good stuff.
Yeah, I remember Adam and I playing a lot of Diablo. It was one of those. We played a lot of Blizzard games, but I played a lot of Diablo, and Diablo 2, I played a shit ton. I remember duping items, all kinds of fuckery I used to do in that game.
It was just
such a fun game.
Mechanically very satisfying.
Yeah, it was like, you know, for some reason, like Blizzard games are probably not going to like me too much for saying this, but Blizzard games, like, I think I went out and bought every Blizzard game and then burnt a copy of every Blizzard game about 1 million times over on
absolutely.
street.
Well, you can spawn them and stuff. They had the spawn copies and stuff.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, I remember like, back in the day, we used to like share CD codes and like all this other stuff. And they got smart with it where you only could register 1 CD code and all this other stuff. But a lot of nostalgia playing Diablo 2. I ain't mad at all that it's on your list. It didn't even come to my mind when I'm thinking about it, but it's definitely would be in my top 20 for sure.
Oh yeah, very good game. It's sad that the thing I remember most is us item duping in that game and rushing to the bottom. Like that was, like it's sad that. But I guess everybody enjoys games differently, and for us, we had the most fun doing that and rushing to the bottom. That's where we got our kicks out of Diablo 2, and I think it's still. Yeah, I think it's still a beautiful game. I think it actually holds up really well, especially since there's been this kind of renaissance of that genre. Now, like, everybody's doing, like, PoE and stuff, which I think... Is PoE the one that just has, like, a new one that just released?
Yeah. PoE is pretty much, like, if they had made a sequel to Diablo 2. They kind of, like, updated it a bit, and they made, like, a more expansive, more modern version of the game. Diablo 2 is, like, the bar I hold for, like, action RPG. Like, Torchlight is really good. And Path of Exile is really good, and I like when I play them, I'm like, you know, this plays comparably to Diablo 2, and I get good feelings when I play it. Like it's cool.
Yeah, no, definitely good game, and the music in Diablo 2 was so damn good.
God. I have the
like, it's so good.
Soundtrack for it. It's amazing. Like I'll listen to it sometimes.
Oh, it's fucking... What a shame they never did Diablo 3. Hopefully they do in our lifetime, boys. Hopefully they...
Warcraft 4, Diablo 3.
Diablo 3, Warcraft 4, you know, maybe it'll happen someday. Yeah, Mr. Black, what do you got in the 4 spot?
Number 4.
It's getting tough now.
Number 4 is getting tough, but you know what, man? I have my top. I actually found my top 5 easier to do than my 10 to 5. If that makes any sense.
That's fair. Yeah, no, that's fair. I mean, there's more games towards the top end of the list than there would be at the bottom.
So coming in at number... Whoa, I'm on number 4?
Yeah, bro, number 4, bro.
Yeah, okay, number 4. Okay, that's right. Number 4 here, I'm going with Super Mario 3.
Hey, there's a game.
Damn good game.
Super Mario 3, for those listening on, you know, just SoundCloud or wherever, or, you know, Patreon. You can't see this, but I'm holding up. I have all my games. I'm holding this up. I actually got this complete in box. Super Mario 3 is, in my opinion, one of the greatest games ever made, and I think a lot of people will agree. It's better, once again, in my opinion, it's better than Super Mario World. It's better than there's one other Mario it's not as good as. But Super Mario 3 is a 2-player Nintendo experience like no other. I mean, just looking at this damn cart, it's so nostalgic. I mean, I remember the big world where everybody's huge. You got the Bowser fights at the end on the ship. You know, the game was repetitive, but there was a theme, like the desert, getting your wings and flying up through levels.
Fuck that sun.
The sun that just circles around and like swings through and comes and hits you. Yeah.
What kind of freaking sun is that anyway? The shit's coming down from the heavens. That's terrifying. Sun coming down from the heavens trying to kill you.
It is.
You know what that was an analogy. That was Japan. That was Japan telling us to wear lots of sunscreen and use an umbrella. That's what they were telling us, man. To avoid the sun.
Just an amazing game. I could sit here and talk about this forever, and I think if there's young people that watching this right now, if you're like 20 years old, you may have never played this game. But the thing is I can honestly say a lot of these games kind of like, and once again, this is subjective, but kind of like Ocarina of Time or Final Fantasy VII, and you said this before about, 2D and 3D and all this other stuff. I can say without a doubt, if you've never played Super Mario 3 before and you plug it in and you go and play it today, you'll have a good time. And it is just an amazing game. I'm a Nintendo hater now. I've become a jaded Nintendo hater.
2D, really, really good 2D platformers age better than almost any other genre that exists. In fact, it's probably the one genre that ages better, period. I don't think there is another genre that does better. So when it's done really well, like Super Mario 3, you can play that 50 years from now. It's still going to be a damn good game.
Yeah. Beat it so many times. There it is, number 4.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think 3 is probably my number 1 Mario game. If I chose one, if I had to like pick my top Mario game, Yeah, I think 3 is my favorite, despite the fact that it's one of them that I haven't beaten fully. I always got to the very last stage, and I got wrecked by the damn last stage over and over again. It's one. I think it's one of the hardest last stages in gaming. Honest to God, is that last stage in Mario 3. But I just loved everything about 3, and the thing that the one mechanic that always I think of is back before the internets, back before
That's a thing.
what's the joke? No, what's the joke? Who is it that's supposed to have invented the internet? Al Gore or whatever.
Al Gore.
Yeah, back before Al Gore invented the internet.
Tubes.
Back before a series of tubes were put together by Al Gore to create the internet, I didn't have Nintendo Power as a magazine or anything like that. When I discovered that I could hold down to go behind the white blocks in Mario 3, I just about lost my mind. That was one of the greatest things ever. Everything about that game was so damn good. The flutes and everything, and skipping the levels and all the secrets. 3 definitely, I think, was the precursor for how they decided that they wanted to put so many secrets in Super Mario World when that came around. Like when you look at the original Mario, yeah, there's some hidden stuff, but you could see how they were kind of building up and how they used that as a theme in Mario games, where you expected there to be secrets. You expected there to be, these hidden things that, like you said, Jeff, 9 months deep into this thing, you randomly found like the stage where you can just get one of 1,000 Yoshis, like that kind of deal.
They don't make games like that anymore.
No, not even Nintendo makes games like that anymore. So it's a rare thing to come by. So definitely my top Mario game, but very good choice for that number 4. My number 4, oh man, mine's gonna be so funny. People are gonna be like, "What the fuck?"
Oh, boys.
Because mine's really now the top games for me. If I picked a number 1 game, it'd be wildly different if it was objective. But these are all games that now just mean something to me personally. My number 4 is Myst. Not just Myst. I couldn't just say only Myst. I actually listed on the Google Plus page the series. Myst, Riven. So Myst, Myst, Riven. Well, there's a reason for it. So Myst, Riven, Myst Exile, Myst 4. I can't think of the name of like if they had it wasn't End of Ages or anything like that. I think that was 5. But anyway, for me, so when I first played Myst, I was young. I can't remember how old I was, but Dad and I played that together. It was the first game that I ever played with my dad. When I was younger, I played games with Mom. I played Duck Hunt. I played Duck Hunt with Mom. Like Mom, but yeah, Mom was a friggin' eagle eye. I was like that bitch with my gun up against the fucking TV the whole time. Mom was in the back of the room sniping shit. I couldn't do anything. So Dad and I played Myst together, and it was good that we did, because I was young when we played Myst. Myst is not a game you play when you're like 11 years old and you just smash. Like that just doesn't happen. So I had a lot.
Did you get like the hard copy with like the notebook and everything?
Oh yeah, I had the original stuff. I don't have it anymore because it got lost in a package of stuff that were at my parents' place. But we had the notebook and everything, and Dad and I wrote notes for puzzles, and we figured it out together. He'd get some stuff, I'd get some stuff. He would help me kind of find solutions. He wouldn't just answer everything for me. And it gave me a love for the puzzle adventure genre. And
bonding, bro.
And
you had some bonding time with your old man.
Within that genre, puzzle adventure, I think Myst outdoes pretty much everything else. I think Riven is the best game for puzzle adventure that's ever made, but I put Myst just because of the series. But that was, I have so much emotional stuff tied to that because it was bonding with the old man, kind of thing, and it's what gave me that love for the genre. The music also fantastic, and when you played on the computer and they did the pre-rendered scenes, every one of the scenes was just pre-drawn. It wasn't rendered in real time. So graphically speaking, it looked so damn good. Everything was incredible. I mean, you look at it now and you're like, what the hell is that? But back then, you looked at that pre-rendered scene, especially one. I mean, you go to Riven, everything Riven and beyond looks insane even now. Yeah. But the original Myst is rough. But you look at it back
They
then,
did
it
a
was
remake
like, oh
of
my
that
God.
too. They did it. They did.
Yeah, they did like
an
5. They did
HD.
Myst. They did like Myst was something. I can't remember what the one was before. Then they did like
Return
real
or
Myst. Then
whatever.
they did 3D Myst. They did a bunch of different original Mysts. But just the pre-rendered scenes look so damn good. And the music was great. The story was incredible. The thought of being able to, as a, you know, it was like a literal analogy for a writer who sits down to write a book, and they're creating a world when they're writing this book. But in Myst, it was like it was reality. They were physically writing in a language that allowed them to create a world and people in that world. And the thought of that was really fantastic, and the story that they wrote around that concept was really good. And even the books, the Myst Reader that you can get now, which is all the books that Rand Miller put together, is a really good read. And if you guys have ever played Myst or have a passive interest in it, even as the storyline, definitely pick that up. It's an excellent read. But yeah, one of my favorites ever, and I think Riven is by far the best puzzle adventure game ever made. It's incredible. I go on and on about Myst forever, but the majority of it is that spending time with Dad and figuring stuff out with Dad and because for Dad and I, all of our bonding time was over building stuff together. You know, Dad literally could build something from the ground up. Doesn't matter what it is. He's literally, you know, you could do anything. It was nuts for me as a kid. And so spending all my time with Dad building things, that was all it was. But my hobby was gaming. And so the only time that those two things ever intersected for the longest time was Myst. So I've got like Jeff saw it here the other day. I have limited prints, 150 runs signed by Rand Miller now. That are on museum print stuff of artwork for the game and stuff. I think Myst is fantastic. Definitely go and do it. Maybe skip the original because it's a little rough. Play Riven, and if you think you're smart, play Riven. It might make you feel stupid, but if you beat it, you're going to feel like a genius. There's my number 4.
Yeah, and also my number. I know he said number 4, but that was actually my number 5 because I still have.
Oh, okay.
I still have four other games.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
I might
just
did I
cheating.
somehow
I think he's
skip.
cheating.
You skipped my
Did I
number
skip
5
one?
before we went to break.
Oh, really? Oh, I'm sorry,
I'm pretty
dude.
sure,
I thought
yeah.
I was the last one every single time, so I thought we'd done that.
It's all right. It's
we
all right.
got you, bro. We got you, bro. Well, what's next on your?
Do we want to go to Jeff and do his number 4?
Yeah, we'll do number 4 now for Jeff, and then we'll go to Bean. So what do you
Okay.
got? What did we skip?
Yeah.
Okay, so my number 4 is once again a game that I own, complete in box, and it is dun, 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 dun. 007. I don't give a shit what anybody. I will argue to the death if there is anybody that'll tell me that there is a better multiplayer shooter locally that you could play with your friends. If you, any real gamer, any real hardcore
so good.
gamer that is
So
our
good.
age or even a little bit younger, remembers playing 007 GoldenEye
yeah.
on the N64 with all their guys. It was an event. And I'm sure there's plenty of people on here right now that can say, you know what? I was that guy that hosted these parties. 4 guys would come over. We would take turns. We would just be going crazy. We would say nobody can use Odd Job. You know, we do golden guns only. We would do all. I mean, I can't even. And even though Perfect Dark, in my opinion, was a better
Technically
game.
better.
Technically a better game. It's still, to the nostalgia, the fact it was James Bond, the characters, the levels. It's one of those few times that a lesser of a game was actually the better of a game. And Perfect Dark was an amazing game and underrated as hell. And I don't even know if it's underrated. I think people really do appreciate it, but they have this bad boy overshadowing them all the time.
Yeah.
And GoldenEye single player was great,
Baseline comparison.
but it was all about the multiplayer. That's it, man. Just 007. 007.
You want to know the crazy thing about the multiplayer? It was coded by one guy as an afterthought. They were like, we need to really
Was
have
it Ken
multiplayer in
Lobb?
this game.
Guy's a god. That guy's a god.
I think it might have been. It might have been like one of the guys on the team was told we need multiplayer, so he figured it out, and it was like incredible.
There's so much I could talk about.
It's like-
I mean, he figured it out well until it was 4-player on the complex, and then it was like 6.5 frames a second. Then it got a little real, but you know, other than that, it was absolutely incredible. I mean, the guys come over. I still play that shit.
Yes.
Like we
yes.
four-man. I went on
Yes.
Kijiji. Somebody was giving away an old Sony Trinitron like tube TV. I got that upstairs. I hauled that 400-pound monstrosity downstairs to hook my N64 into, and we huddle around it and eat pizza and drink beer and
Yes.
play GoldenEye. And it's the same thing every time, and we don't care. We go to facilities, proximity mines, first game every single time. It is
Love
a
it.
race to the bathroom to kill the poor bastard that spawns in the friggin' vents every single time. It's a race to get your hands on a DD44 revolver, or not revolver, a pistol.
It's like a pistol. It's like a thick pistol.
It's the pistol. We then move on to pistols only in the library. Then we move went back in the day when we played it every
Golden
weekend
Gun.
back in high school. We never played Golden Gun, but we play License to Kill in everything that we play. There is no except for one. So the one time that we didn't was back in high school. We played this every single weekend. The guys come over, and the last one that we played before everybody went home, and it lasted like 2 hours, was we played Slappers Only, Maximum Health on Aztec.
Oh my god.
The biggest map, the
hated Aztec.
longest, like, it would be
hated
guys running in circles, fucking slapping each other for like 45 minutes trying to kill somebody because it took so long. And it would be like, you're strategically trying to like team up with another guy without chopping him. Like you're trying to, and it would just be the dumbest match. We called it the Iron Man match because you had to actually it was absolutely, it was fitting. But that game,
The proximity mines when you said that,
incredible.
dude. Oh my god! I want to just play. I want to hook up an N64 right now and play 007. I don't give a
It's
shit.
good.
Like I'll literally
good.
fight people on the streets if they try and tell me that the 007 is not the best first-person shooter, local multiplayer of all time.
You know what we also had? So we had
grounded.
this is
I got
this
grounded
is
because of
another.
GoldenEye.
Dude, my parents took GoldenEye away from me and put it in a closet for a year until I convinced them. I was, but what I did. Okay, so I have a story. I have so many GoldenEye stories, but I'm gonna tell this one because this is our top 4, and I don't care if it takes a little extra time. So back in the day in high school, when we played this game every single weekend, and we had a bunch of dudes come over to play this, we'd swap, people in and out, whatever. I had this.
What about the Mad Catz
old,
controller?
I didn't have it. No. I had the Sidewinder stupid one that was like the ugliest thing ever. Terrible. But anyway, so I had a blanket that we stored. Like Jeff would remember. Like the guys if we went golfing or whatever, everybody would sleep at my place because I had a big room that everybody slept in, and I had a bunch of blankets and pillows that guys could like borrow or whatever while they were over there. And these blankets were filthy because they got like pizza on them and like ketchup and whatever condiments at the time didn't matter. And there was this one blue blanket that had this big ass white splot on it that was Donair sauce. But obviously that, because we were in high school, that's not what we called it. It was Donair sauce, right? And so it was like it was like fun. To this day, I have no idea how old that sauce was on that blanket. It was old as hell. But we kept it off to the side when we played GoldenEye. And whenever somebody, there was conditions that you had to lick the blanket.
Ooh.
All right, and the conditions were, if you got killed by a slapper in License to Kill, which was every single thing that we played, you had to lick the blanket. If you got killed by a Cougar Magnum, you had to, because that gun was so freaking terrible, you had to lick the blanket. And if you had a club and somebody slapped you to death when you were using the club, you had to lick the blanket, because you, as the club, I don't know how many people played the game long enough. The club shot so slowly and awkwardly, and the club is named after Ken Lobb, the guy who was part of the development team. So if you didn't know this already, you could actually like S curve and like and C button strafe through the bullets. Like if somebody shoots the club in a straight line and you're a god, you can actually like fucking salsa your way through the whole fucking thing and not get hit, and then you slap a bitch and then they're fucked. And like it's one of the greatest things you can do because the gun is so bad. It's probably, for the longest time, we always said the Cougar Magnum was the worst gun, and then eventually when we got older, we're like, no, man, the Club is the shittiest weapon in this game by miles.
The Claw was the worst
it's
one ever.
so bad. It's
If
so
I picked up a
freaking
Claw, I'd
bad.
switch back to the PP7.
Yeah, anything. Literally, if I had a Club and a Cougar Magnum, I'd use a Cougar Magnum or Slapper. I wouldn't even bother with Club. It's just not going to happen. But yeah, anyway, great game, phenomenal, absolutely incredible. And you're right, Perfect Dark, technically speaking,
Yeah. Better game.
a better game.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter because GoldenEye was just so damn
GoldenEye.
fun.
Yeah, it's
It had sometimes games can be
legendary.
technically great, but there's no X factor. GoldenEye had an X factor. I still don't to this day know.
Factor, bro.
You know,
It's the triple
maybe
X
you know
factor.
what? You know what it was? It's Pierce Brosnan, bro. It's Pierce
was.
Brosnan.
It was. We're gonna say that.
I feel
We're gonna leave
bad.
it right
I feel
there.
we're gonna talk about this. We're gonna talk about this sometime because of movies. Pierce Brosnan got screwed by the writers. I think Pierce is one of the greatest Bond guys, and with
We'll have
the
this-
worst scripts
We'll have this debate
possible.
when the time comes.
possible. I think Pierce is a fucking god. But anyway, moving on. So, is this mine now? Am I up? Is this number 4 now for me? I
Yeah,
think?
you're up.
Yep, you're up.
All right. So number 4 for me is the first Halo Combat Evolved. So Jeff had number 2. I went number 1 for Halo. Now, don't get me wrong. Halo 2 is an incredible game, and I agree, the best multiplayer shooter on a console.
Ever.
By far, I don't think anything's come up since that it has come close to it. Some people would probably go for like somebody who's stupid would say Call of Duty. I could make an argument for Bad Company 2. I could also make it. I could also make.
Wasn't terrible. Wasn't
No,
terrible.
Modern Warfare, for sure. I can make an argument. I mean, but I think Halo 2 is just ridiculous. The only things wrong with it really were the fact that the plasma pistol into not assault rifle, but the what was it? What did they call it? Combat rifle or whatever. I can't remember what it was, but the combo was so dumb.
Battle
that
rifle
was,
or whatever.
Battle rifle,
Battle
whatever they
rifle.
called.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that maybe it would have.
So that combo was dumb, and then the double needler, as awesome as it was so broken. What is whatever. But like beside that, it was so good, and it was during that time where Xbox Live was at its the peak, and Xbox Live, let's be honest, was fire. So damn good. They nailed that out of the park. Microsoft smashed Xbox Live out of the park.
Oh yeah.
So that was really good. But Halo 1, I think is one of the greatest games ever made, because for me, I think Halo 1, kind of like how Lost Odyssey proves that that traditional Japanese RPGs can still be done today and left alone and not messed with and still be good as a game. Halo 1 proved that you can do shooters on a console and it can be fucking awesome. And beyond that, it proved that once again there were other games that it was a technically excellent game. Shooters except for like the Half-Life series and Deus Ex and stuff, there wasn't a lot of shooters to my knowledge, pre-Halo. That had like honest to goodness attempts at making a world and a story. I think a lot of people just looked at shooters like, here's Quake, here's Doom. It's you're getting the shooter experience, but you're not getting a lot beyond the shooter experience. And then Halo came in, and was another one of those in that ladder, that showed that shooters can be more than that. I think the musical score is iconic and one of the best ever made. The theme to the original Halo is
Michael Giacchino
hauntingly
or whatever.
fucking good. Yeah, like really, really good. And I just remember, as much fun as I had with Halo 2's multiplayer, and I did have a lot of fun with it, I think I had more fun with Halo 1's just the local, because it was the local aspect of it. And it blows my mind that I could play so much on one map, like Blood Gulch. Like, we played with some of the other maps, but it was pretty much only Blood Gulch that we played on. and had so much fun just on that one map that it blew my mind that a game could have that kind of longevity in that way. And I think the game still holds up really well, and it was I think impressive too because it was a brand new franchise. It wasn't a game built on the back of some other thing. And if you know the story of Halo and how it came to even be a first-person shooter, it would also surprise many of you. I mean, many people probably know it already, but it was originally not even close to what you saw. Like, I don't want to talk about the whole thing. Go look up the story of Halo and how it became Halo. It's crazy. Halo Wars is closer to the original Halo than Combat Evolved is. So, just a super interesting game. Until people played it and knew about it, it was a sleeper for sure because it was a new IP on a console from Microsoft that at the time was like the black, you know, it was the I said black and then didn't finish it up. It was like what's the
You got a problem with black? Bro?
Yeah, absolutely. Like what is the not the ugly duckling, the black swan? Is that what I'm looking for here? Like you know what I mean? Like the odd one out. You know what I mean?
Black. Yeah, black. Yeah,
black.
Segregate
Just black.
Me again. Yeah.
Yeah, segregate.
Yeah,
you know,
thank you.
Front of no. Yeah. Water
Says the guy on
fountains.
here with two brown people.
Yeah, you're the minority here.
Yeah,
I have to be careful. In the Oreo, I am the minority. But you know, that was kind of what Microsoft was. So I thought it was just a very, as a whole, a very important title, and it was an important one to me too because it was one of the first games after the N64 with GoldenEye, for example, that got everybody into the house playing games together, and did that for a very long time. So that's why it's my number 4.
Cool. I can't disagree. What's next? Who's next? Tabin, you up?
Panic is up, number 3.
Yeah, number 3. This is tricky. It's going to be controversial because when they hear my number 1 and 2, they're going to be like, "What the hell is wrong with you?"
Black Sheep. Sorry, I interrupted you. It's Black Sheep. That was what I was looking for.
Number 3 is going to be Brood War.
Okay.
Definitely Brood War. So we're going with Brood War just because I played the campaign through a lot. I never laddered. But oh my god, the used map settings and melee mode, like Mucho Money maps and stuff. My buddies and I, we'd always do like the 3 versus 5 comp stomps. It was like the thing to do. Come home from school, hop on a BattleNet, or what was BattleNet back then. You know, immediately just find games with buddies and just go at it for like 4 or 5 hours. It was pretty much our jam. Probably dumped years of my life in that game.
Yeah, I'm right on board with you. And obviously this is going to be one that's going to come up for me. I mean, it's pretty obvious. So I'll talk a little bit more about it, but I can. That's why you said you're
with me.
Number 1 and number 2. I'm with you. I'm curious to know what your number 1 and number 2 is because I didn't look at your list. But of course, you know you maybe have a little bit of a different connection than what I have with Brood War. So, but I'm right there with you, dude. Amazing game. I can't argue with that.
I can actually add in a little bit more on my connection with that one because
go for
again,
it.
like I just moved. Like I had lived in Long Island with for pretty much my entire life till that point, and I just moved to a new town and didn't have too many friends. But the friends that I made, I'm still friends with them today. We became friends because they found out that I was a huge into StarCraft and I was playing Brood War, and they're like, "Yo, do you want to play?" And then when I got in, and they're like, "Oh God, this guy's actually really good, and he's fun to play with on this game." And to this day, 18 years later, still some of my best friends came from Brood War.
Yep.
So that's where my personal connection from came
the feels. Yeah, for us on the street, like Jeff said, with Diablo 2, Brood War got burnt into the freaking ground. With so many copies of that game were made, it was insane. And we had everybody playing on the street. We'd be out at night playing Trackdown or whatever, and all of a sudden, I'd say something like, "Hey, Jeff." Jeff'd be like, "What?" You go, "Carrier has arrived." And Jeff would be like, "Oh." Jeff would be like, "Oh,
Battle cruiser operational."
And I was still on we were still on dial-up and shit. Like, it was brutal. And we go play it for 4 hours, and it would just massacre our, nobody could call the house because it was dial-up, and it was just absolutely terrible. But yet we had so much fun with it. 7v1 comp stomps, where we'd go in when we got particularly good at fast money maps. We'd go 7v1 comp stomps, Jeff and I, and then we'd just basically play Game of Thrones with the rest of the people until they were so paranoid they started killing each other off, and we'd convince them to kill each other. Like the whole time. And then we get down to the last guy, and then we were like, surprise, motherfucker!
Guess
and
what,
just kill
bitch?
them
It's
off.
us. We
Guess
took
what?
off unallied.
Like turtle up.
Our allied
Allied
victory.
Victory.
Yeah, we
now
turned
you're
up.
Allied.
It was so good.
You guys are
we had
dicks.
a lot
Allied
of fun.
and
We were
dicks.
we're
definitely
terrible.
dicks.
Dude, I remember we played so much Fastest Money Map games. My name NovaWar comes from Brood War. And I wanted the name just Nova. Flat Nova. Unfortunately, Nova was taken, and I was like 11 or 12 years old at the time, and so I was trying to come up with what could I have alongside of Nova to make it sound cool. And when you're 12, War is super awesome. So I just slapped War at the end of Nova, and now here we are. Jeff had about 1,000 names in Brood War, each one of them more douchey than the last, until he finally settled on something. I can't remember what it was. But this was long before MaximusBlack.
Yeah, it was Hell on Earth for a really long time. I had like dark star power and dark, dark, all kinds of dark.
Dark.
But Hell on Earth was sort of towards the end, and then I brought that onto Xbox and all that other stuff. But yeah, I'll talk more about Brood War a little bit later on. But good choice.
Oh yeah, good stuff for sure. And I think for me, I didn't realize how good StarCraft's campaign was. Because we just played so much multiplayer, you know, I had to go back years later and play through the campaign because I never did, and so it was just so solid. And you tend to forget, especially with like StarCraft 2, there was so many people in the esports scene crying, you know, Blizzard esports dead, blah blah blah, StarCraft 2 dead game, ha 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 ha. I'm Team Liquid, I'm StarCraft, Reddit, whatever. But they don't realize that the first 5 to 7 million copies of StarCraft 2 that sell are people that don't give a shit about multiplayer, and all they play is the campaign. Like, no fucks given for multiplayer.
Yep.
So, you know, people sometimes, I think, forget about that. And Brood War is no different. Very good game, for sure. And in the competitive scene, I'll say this before moving on, I think in the competitive scene, Brood War just flat out one of the greatest esports of all time because of the creativity that it allowed you to have within the RTS space. And that's what StarCraft 2 severely lacked at all points of its life, short of its initial launch because it was a new game. Blizzard balanced it to the point where it was rock, paper, scissors on speed. It was rock, paper, scissors.
Adam, you're going down this road, bro. Don't trigger me.
Scissors beat paper, but only if you do it fast enough. So, and that was basically it. So anyway, whatever. Brood War, fantastic game, beautiful game. Jeff, I think you're up now. What you got, number three? We're at number 3. We're top threes.
We're in the top 3 now, and I could put this at number 2, but I'm going to put this at number 3 just because when I really think about it, oh man, this is so tough. I mean, this should be my number 2, but I'm going to go ahead and say number 3 just to keep the conversation going.
Okay.
StarCraft 2. Going in at number 3.
Oh,
StarCraft
my God.
2.
Bro, do I know you?
The reason why, I'm putting StarCraft 2 at 3rd, and hear me out.
Okay, I'm listening.
StarCraft 2, and I don't want to get too deep.
Okay.
But StarCraft
We're gonna have an
2's
entire cast just for StarCraft in general, so we won't go too deep.
I won't go too deep. But StarCraft 2 saved my life. And I honestly
Fair.
Before I started playing StarCraft 2, when the beta got announced, I was in a really rough spot. And I was down on myself. I was that guy that dropped in university, didn't know what he wanted to do. My friends were, in university or finishing up, and I was that guy. I hadn't talked with Adam in a long time. I was lost. And StarCraft 2 came out and gave me purpose, which sounds very, very stupid, but maybe not to a lot of people. I think a lot of people use video games as an escape. But StarCraft 2 allowed me, for one, I looked forward to something. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that StarCraft 2 is a great game. It's a good game. It's great in my eyes because of what it has done for me. But I mean, I've done for me. But the StarCraft 2 was the portal for me to be me, and truly be me. But StarCraft 2 was, when it came out, it was an adventure again. It was like, I at the time I hadn't played StarCraft Brood War in a few years, and StarCraft 2 was close enough. Wings of Liberty I'm talking about here. Wings of Liberty, not Heart of the Swarm or Legacy of the Void. Wings of Liberty. And I actually have, I won't show that yet, but StarCraft 2 was the game that, like I said, it changed my life. It rekindled our friendship. Even though it was always there, it was what brought us back as gamers. It was what created LAGTV. It's what created this podcast. And so when I
would have never met.
Yeah, we would have never met Tabin. I would have never met all the people that are listening to this podcast, or have gotten to know a lot of you guys. I wouldn't have anything that I have in my life. I shouldn't say anything, because I'm sure I would have been successful in my own way, but I don't know where I'd be.
Those Chuck Norris t-shirts were a fire idea.
Exactly. And for those that don't know, we'll get into that another time. But StarCraft 2 was definitely the GOAT. It was, Brood War has a special place in my heart, but StarCraft 2 is what made me who I am today. I don't know where I'd be. I don't want to think about where I'd be. All I know is it's a fun game. Wings of Liberty, the heyday, 2012, 2013. It was the growth. It was the birth of esports. That
was a crazy time.
In North American esports, at least it was the creator of Twitch. It was everything. I mean, StarCraft 2 was everything, and we were just so fortunate to be on the ground floor when everything happened. Right place, right time. And it would be very disrespectful for me to not put it on there. Is this as good of a game as some of the other games that I've mentioned in terms of, technically or any of those things? Maybe not. Maybe in some people's eyes, maybe not. But in terms of the impact on my life, like my actual life, I can play a game. I can play Final Fantasy VII as a 12-year-old and have fun and say, "Oh my God, this is the game that made me a gamer." But StarCraft 2 is the game that created MaximusBlack. If I'm at the movie theater and someone yells, "MaximusBlack, what's up?" That is because of StarCraft 2. My whole being came from that game as an adult. It's what pays the bills. It's what furthers my family tree. It's what I'll tell my children when that happens. It is my legacy. And that is just it for me. So I have to put StarCraft 2 on there without getting too crazy and too deep. And I'm sure we'll have an entire segment on a podcast to talk about StarCraft. Oh, yeah. It might even be a series of segments. But StarCraft 2 is me. I am a nerd, and I love the game. And as much as I hate on Blizzard, I thank them for making it and changing my life.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's all of that is obvious truth. I mean,
tell us how you really feel.
Tell us how you really feel. No, StarCraft 2, it's StarCraft 2 as an engine for everything that came about in the last 6 years is obviously an incredibly important thing for sure. I think that's incredibly obvious. And I'm even though I never stuck with it in such a way that launched me into some stratospheric kind of situation, it definitely, I wouldn't have changed anything. I mean, StarCraft was an incredible period. StarCraft 2 was an incredible period of my life that, when I left, so I graduated university and went into a job immediately and was there for however many months. And while that was happening, StarCraft or LAGTV went from like this to like this in this 1 week period. And I remember being at work and I would do all of my work in the first half of the day, and then the second half of my day was like LAGTV shit. and I was just constantly like pretending to work because I'd already done everything I could possibly do in the day, and then I'd just go and do LAGTV stuff. I'd get home, and then I'd leave work, and my work at the time wasn't far from Jeff's place, so I'd leave work, I'd go to Jeff's, we would record for like 4 more hours, I'd go home at like 1 o'clock in the morning, I'd go to bed, I was up at 6, I'd go to work, I did the thing, I'd go to Jeff's, we did the recording.
What a beautiful time that was, man. I just think
nuts.
back to it. I think back to it, and I'm so I can't I'm at a loss of words, man. And it just so much just comes back, and the whole when cheese fails, and the fact that we didn't try to make this happen. It just happened. And it was, when I look back at it, I just wish it was those days again. Things have changed so much. Man, if I get too deep here, I'm a breakdown, I'm a cry, I'm a do it all. But I'm gonna tell you guys, and the more I think about this should be number 1 on my list. But I'm gonna keep it at number 3, and without getting too deep into it, guys, we'll have a time where we'll tell you guys the real story of LAGTV and really how things got started.
Go deep into it.
We'll go deep into it. And you guys will learn a lot.
It was nuts. The whole time was crazy and surreal and out there, and so we definitely owe pretty much everything to StarCraft 2, or the very least the community as well. Like the two things go hand in hand, but for sure. Yeah. Good choice. Solid pick. Thank you for cutting all of the onions for everybody else in here now.
Thank you, bro.
Appreciate that.
So many feels. So many feels.
Where am I now? Okay, so I'm on my number 3 now.
Number 3. Yep.
Where am I? I've got 1, 2. Did I miss one? Am I ahead of myself? How did this happen? I've got 1, 2.
I've got 2 left.
Did we skip yours because
you forget how to count?
I did one? Is that what happened?
I'm not
sure. How many do you have left?
Because I'm pretty sure I only have 2 left.
Okay, well then go over to Tabin and then...
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
You only have 9? You only have 9 on your list?
No, I've got 10. So I did Project Gotham Racing. So I talked about Project Gotham Racing, Silent Hill, Jet Set Radio, Lost Odyssey, Halo, Ocarina of Time, and Myst and Shadow of the Colossus.
Yep.
So yeah, I've got 2 left. So Panic, you go ahead. So that's how we managed to skip Jeff's then. So Panic, you're up for your number 2, bro.
All right. Number 2 game of all time for me. I guarantee you a lot of people have never heard of this game. It was a niche
excited
product at its time. FreeSpace 2.
What?
Or
I know FreeSpace.
The Descent's FreeSpace series. It was made by Volition, Space Combat Sim. And it was probably it was one of the... I have more hours in this game than I know, probably more like 600, 700 hours in both of them. It's pretty much like one of the best space combat sims ever created. Shortly thereafter, the space combat genre kind of died out, which is why I'm like super excited for stuff like Elite and Star Citizen coming back, because I've always been a huge fan of like space fighters.
Isn't Star Citizen by the dude who did FreeSpace?
No, Star Citizen's by the dude who did Wing Commander.
Wing Commander, yeah. Okay, Wing Commander, yeah.
And
with
Freelancer,
Mark
actually.
Hamill
He was
and all
part of
that.
Freelancer, too. Yeah, so overall, like FreeSpace 2, like again, one of the best space combat games ever. It had a deep story, had ship customization, you had a massive campaign. Each of the games were long. The story was cool. It was like voice acted, and there's all sorts of stuff going on, twists and turns and plots. And just overall super well polished and tight game. And even more awesome is, even to this day, people are still releasing mods, and they've actually released a series of mods that bring it up to graphical standards of today.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of mods for FreeSpace 2.
Yeah, completely. It's available on GOG, which is awesome. Like the moment that came out on GOG, I bought it.
Picked that up.
Installed a bunch of mods.
I think you remember talking
all
about
the campaigns.
That. Yeah.
Yeah, we were doing Google Hangouts and stuff. I was just playing the shit out of like 3-4 days straight. And you're like, what game are you playing? I'm like, FreeSpace.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's one of my go-to games. Like, I'll go back to it. Like it's like I'm waiting for Star Citizen, and I'm hoping it like even recaptures like a tenth of the feeling I have for FreeSpace. I'm like, if it does, I'm like, I'm good.
Yeah, I've always been passively interested in space sims and that genre, but I never got into it myself.
I've got
the
sticks,
ones
pedals, throttles ready to go.
yeah, like I never quite got there. It was always a genre. It's like fighting games. I've always wanted to play fighting games and kind of get like okay at them, but I'm so absolutely terrible at fighting games. It's unreal how bad I am, but I love watching them and I love watching them played well. And space sims, in a similar vein, I always wanted to get into them. I never really did. I tried to get into what is it? What X, Terran Conflict, and an Albion Prelude or what's the full title of that series? I don't think it's just X. Panic just lost audio randomly.
Rip the
like
dream.
in your headphones? One moment, guys. Uno momento.
Well, I haven't. I can't even chime in. I mean, I've never really played flight sims. I remember playing an old flight sim on Windows 3.1. It was this garbage game. I had 2 games to my name. That sim and a game called Cyclone. If anybody wants to go on YouTube and search Cyclone for the PC, I don't even know what year it came out. But it looks like a dude from Universal Soldier. Definitely go check that out. It is the most ridiculous game, but kind of fun. That was my very first video game I had ever pretty much played that was significant, or definitely my first PC game. That and Wolfenstein. But I have never got into flight sims. It's never a genre that I got it like that I enjoyed. I just think it's boring sitting there with my stuff, and I can land a plane. I mean, I guess to some people that's amazing and it's super fun, but to me, boring. So, but I can't tell you if I agree with it or not, because I've never even heard of FreeSpace 2. I've even heard of FreeSpace 1.
Oh, well, that's perfectly fair.
Great games.
Can you hear? You can hear us now, which is good. Yeah,
and you're
We're gonna have to rely. We're as expected. We're gonna end up relying probably on our local recordings for this, but that's okay.
Yep, it's all good.
You guys just straight went silent on me, so I'm like, oh damn.
Yeah, whatever.
No, but yeah, FreeSpace, best game ever.
Yeah, no, really. I know I haven't played it, but I know it's an incredibly respected game, 100%. And I'm sure someday there's going to be a game.
Kill for FreeSpace 3. I'll kill for FreeSpace 3.
Maybe sometime.
Like if someone told me right now, you run Adam over with a steamroller and you'll get FreeSpace 3, I'd be in Halifax in like 5 minutes.
Oh, rip the dream, Adam.
Get wrecked. I wonder, I bet you if Star Citizen comes out before we're 90 and that does well, that FreeSpace might have a chance of having like a re-up on a number 3, if it comes to pass. So my number 2, well, I already know what number 1 is, and a lot of people probably already know what number 1 is. Number 2 for me is Persona 4. Persona 4 is a game that even if you like Japanese RPGs, Persona 4 still might be so obscure that you won't like it, despite the fact that I think Persona 4 is a top 5, if not top 3 Japanese RPG ever made. There is almost nothing that you can critique about it unless it's just you don't like the style of the game. That's usually what it comes down to. If somebody plays Persona 4, there's nothing really wrong with it. It's just I don't like the fact that it's like a high school dating sim wrapped up in a Japanese RPG, which is not really a dating sim, but yeah, Jeff's probably got it there.
Persona was just too weeb for me. I don't know.
I
watched your playthrough. I thought it was cool. But...
Yeah, I never streamed playing through it, so you must have been watching me play something else.
3?
A little bit of Persona 3, but 3 is not as good as 4. Yeah, I did 3 for a bit, but 4 is incredible. The things are incredible for me. If you can't look past how Japanese this game is, because it is Japanese as hell. So if you can't look past that, that's unfortunate. But and I'm not saying you specifically, Panic, I'm just talking in general. So the characters and the character development, both for the main characters and even side characters in this game, and generally in the franchise, really, it's not just 4, but 4 I think did it, in my opinion, probably better than anybody else, is incredible. There's not a lot of games that do character development and character interplay as well as I've experienced with Persona 4. The system of personas and how you get them and combining them is really fun, and creating like these ridiculously overpowered personas for the end game if you want to. The social linking aspect, which is like the quote unquote dating sim-y type situations that you get in the game, where it's basically just, it's not really dating sim, it's spending time with the other characters if you want to get to learn about those characters more than the main story just presents to you.
Yeah.
And it's just done so damn well. The music is incredible. The style of Persona games smashes fucking everything else out of the park. There is no game that is more stylish than Persona games. Persona 5 coming up here soon. I dare somebody to find a more stylish, crazy, awesome designed game than Persona 5. I fucking dare you. It won't happen.
They have a lot of character. They have a lot of character in the game.
It's incredibly... It knows what it is, and it does it so damn well. But the thing for me was, it's got more... So the game's got more than just the game being good for me. It's not just that. So I played... I originally didn't even play Persona 4. When... Back in high school and stuff, I wrote a lot of blogs and reviews and stuff for games on GameSpot.com, back when the blogosphere on GameSpot was way bigger and more highly regarded by the actual website, where you could have your stuff on the front page of the website as a blogger if you had a soapbox emblem, which I had at the time, and I was grandfathered as a reviewer there, top 100 or top 50 for a long time, and it was where I grew to love writing reviews and critiquing games. People like Brad Shoemaker and Ryan Davis and Jeff Gerstmann and I'm forgetting one more, Greg Kasavin. These guys that did all the writing and whatnot, they shaped me as a game reviewer that I do, even as a hobbyist thing. And I had such a strong tie to there. When Jeff Gerstmann got let go and GameSpot got new management, and they got pushed on when Jeff released the review for what was it? What was the name of that game?
Too Human?
It was the second... What?
Oh, wasn't Too Human?
No. It was I can't think of the game right now, but anyway, he got sacked because the developers put a bunch of pressure on the new GameSpot management that weren't used to hearing that from game devs. It happened for years. Like, this is just something that happens. Like, if you put out a game review that's bad and they're advertising on the site at the time, they get Kane and Lynch 2. That's it. Kane and Lynch 2. And they get mad pressure, but the old management were like, go, get out of here. I don't want to hear it. You're not going to do anything. You're not going to pull advertising from the site. It's not going to happen, whatever. But the new guys broke, and they fired Jeff on the fucking spot, and he got kicked out. He was editor-in-chief on the website at the time. So when he leaves and he creates GiantBomb.com with Brad Shoemaker and Ryan Davis, who now unfortunately passed away, and Vinny Caravella and a few of the other guys, and created what is now my favorite video game website, period. They are the most, in my opinion, the most knowledgeable and fair reviewers and most in-depth analyzers of anything, while also being funny as fuck. I love their humor. They did the endurance run of Persona 4. He and Vinny, back when they were still in like this basement of somebody's like house in the middle of California somewhere, and every day they do it and post up like a 40 minutes or an hour-long video of them playing just the section of Persona 4. And Jeff is famous for hating anime. Fucking loathes it. And so it was a hilarious thing to have Gerstmann sit down and play this with Vinny. And Vinny was way more open-minded. It wasn't such a big deal. And the interplay between them and their commentary on it was so funny. I was hooked. And they released an episode every day for 8 months. 8 months straight before they beat the game. And I watched it every day before I went to university. And it was one of the greatest times for me to wake up. I was so excited to watch it. It was it was the first real daily kind of video game content that was created before like YouTube blew up and all that shit. That was the thing for me that got me interested in that stuff. And I watched it all. Then after I watched them complete the game, I went out and bought a PS2 Slim just for Persona 4. Then I played Persona 4 all the way through 120 hours and got the best ending of the game. And I closed it, I boxed it, and I will never play the game again because it was like this perfect moment of gaming for me. And it's such a weird game for that to be Persona 4 of all these games that happened for me. But I will never play Persona 4 again. It's actually I've decided that it will never happen. But if you're a Japanese RPG fan, definitely check out Persona 4 or just give it a shot anyway. It's incredible. I know that was the longest-winded answer ever, but I could talk about Persona 4 all day.
I've noticed.
Hey, Jeff.
I've noticed.
Jeff, I think Adam really likes Persona 4.
Yo,
I
Panic,
really like Persona 4.
Panic, I'm
Really
thinking
likes
about
it.
like, you want to like start a side podcast so we can say something. You and I will, we'll do this Saturdays at 8. We'll
I
do this,
also knew that you guys didn't have any experience, I think, with Persona in general, other than maybe
Persona
like playing
4
it briefly.
cast for Adam.
Yeah, for me. The side
Start a
cast. just
separate
talking about Persona
Patreon for
4.
that.
We know you love your Persona, Adam. I even have a copy of it right
Yeah.
here. We got you. I've never played it, so I can't say anything, but I'm gonna take your word for
Yeah,
it.
They even made like a
it's
fighting game or
really
something
good.
for it too, which was like I
Persona
think I have
4
it
Arena.
somewhere. Persona 4 Arena.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's
I
actually a
think I
pretty
picked it
good
up and
fighting
then never
game.
played it.
Yeah,
I
it's
watched
pretty
people
good.
play it. It was enough for me to pick it up.
Yeah.
Cool.
But there you go.
All right.
There's my
Who's up?
long spiel on that. So now we're back to Panic. Now we're into the real shit, guys. This is the number one.
No, this is
We're
top
at
2.
the number one spot.
No, you haven't done
Top 2.
Have you done Jeff's number 2 yet?
Oh no, we're doing
two.
2. Oh no. Oh, wait, how am I so out of order?
I did
I've done
mine
the same
already.
order the whole time. Oh, okay.
No, you skipped
Well, then
Jeff. this
Jeff.
time.
I'm always getting skipped. Fuck this
You're
guy,
getting skipped.
man. Who's this guy?
Dude,
All right.
It's because you're black.
It is because I'm black. It's because I'm black. I'm not Mexican. I'm
You're just
straight
blending
black.
into your chair in your background, Jeff.
You're just
I at
you're
least
just
lit
straight
myself
black.
up.
All right.
I apologize.
So my number 2, I'm kind of regretting not putting StarCraft 2 at number 2, but I'm just gonna throw this out. They can go either way, but I'm just gonna throw this out there. Super Mario 64. This game.
I was waiting for it.
This game right
No
here.
shame in that, man.
Super
I was waiting
top
for it.
game material.
Definitely. Super
Top
Mario
material.
64. Just incredible. I remember, I think I've told the story on LAGTV. I remember living up in Cowie Hill, waking up Christmas morning. Once again, my parents are always amazing at getting me video games.
On the spot.
My sister was maybe 1 or 2 years old. I don't remember. She was like an infant. And it was one of the first Christmases. It might even have been the very first Christmas where me and my sister, were opening up presents together. Even though my sister was super small, my mom would pretty much open them. But I was a kid, so I'd get a little jealous on, it was no longer about me. I'm nine and a half years older than my sister. So I was so used to being the only child and being spoiled as the only child. So when my sister came through, and like I said, we didn't have the most money, so things got divvied up. But during Christmas time, we got spoiled, and I remember opening up all my Christmas presents, and my sister had all of her Christmas presents, and everything was opened, and I had no N64. And N64 just came out, and I was so sour, and my dad said, "Hey, son, Bud," he calls me Bud. "Hey, Bud, there's one more present on the deep freezer for your sister. Can you go grab it for me?" And I was I was crying, like I was upset. And my dad got this sick. My dad loved it. Like my dad got this sick, twisted, like entertainment out of watching me like feel disappointed because he knew he was about to make my day. Like he knew it was coming, so he just kind of let me sulk a little bit. And my sister was like, got her new clothes and everybody was happy. And I'm sitting there, I'm literally crying. Everything is done. I'm crying. And I remember my mom going, Jeff, what's wrong? And I was like, nothing's wrong. And I didn't want to, my dad was always hard on me. So like, if I ever had a problem with something, I would never be vocal about it. Like, I don't want to eat, Kraft dinner and wieners again tonight. I would never say that because I understood we had food on the table and that was the way it was. And it was no different for Christmas. I didn't want to be that kid. I still got a bunch of clothes. I had a Walkman and all this other stuff, but I didn't get my N64, and my parents asked me what was wrong. I was like, nothing's wrong, nothing's wrong. And they knew it was wrong. I didn't get my N64. So my dad was like, yo, go on over there and get your sister's present. So in the living room, we had a back door that went to the backyard, and around the corner, there was a deep freezer. And you couldn't see it from the living room, but it was around the corner. So, of course, I'm going over there, dragging my feet, and lo and behold, right on top of the deep freezer is my N64, Super Mario 64, and Killer Instinct.
Oh,
and
shit.
I don't remember my reaction, but I just know that it was one of the greatest moments of my life. It was a defining moment as a gamer. Even it's one of those stories. Everybody has a story that you guys talk about with your family at Christmas time or a special holiday where you just repeat the same story every year and you reminisce. This is one of those reminiscing moments for my family because everybody felt good. I know that my parents struggled to get me that system. They knew how much it meant to me.
Was expensive.
It was expensive as shit. And
games
Mario
were like $80 Canadian.
It was crazy, dude. Mario 64 was a game that I played and still played. I did a playthrough of it not long ago. I could go and play it, and it's the only game, still to this day, that I'll watch somebody speed run over and over and over again because it is so well built. The camera system on Mario, although some people will say it was horrible, I think it revolutionized the camera viewing with the C sticks and all that other stuff. It wasn't
perfect,
amazing.
but when it comes out, you have to put it in perspective. When it came out,
it was really good when it came out.
There was literally no template for 3D platforming. And so for it to be so good is a mind fuck because think about it. We've got new generations, graphics get better, whatever. VR is the closest thing to new, really new territory that we've had since the jump to 3D. So to go from 2D to 3D and now a camera is involved and to match 3D and platforming, which is one of the most difficult combinations, and for Mario 64 to do it so damn well, and the only complaint people can have is, the camera gets a little weird sometimes. That's that's fantastic.
Oh, come on. The bosses in the game were great. The fact that you could replay it endless amounts of times, I've gotten all 121 stars at least 5 times.
Jeff, but did you find Luigi?
Of course I found Luigi.
I remember getting trolled by that so bad. Everybody got trolled by that. I feel like I remember hearing through the grapevines like Luigi's in this game. Yeah. Luigi's in this game somewhere, and I looked forever, never found him. But Yoshi was in there.
That was the biggest
you just had to.
Yoshi was definitely in there. Just an amazing game, guys. I would put it, if it wasn't because of StarCraft, it would be my #1 game. It is the game that. It was the birth of me as a gamer. It's amazing. Mario 64 is incredible, guys. If there's anybody out there that doesn't like Mario 64, that's on you. But when I think of games like Final Fantasy VII, Ocarina of Time, 007, all these, and it's funny that a lot of my games are on the N64. What an incredible system the N64 was in the games and titles they brought out. And it's in a lot of these games we talk about nostalgia, but I really feel like N64, a lot of the games are nostalgic, but they are just great games. N64 made great games. It was a console of great games, and Mario 64 is #1 game on the N64 for me.
That's good. That's a good choice. It's a very good choice. I like it.
Salesmanship right there. #1.
I knew. Yeah, #1. You gotta do the Mario voice though.
Yippee! Here we go.
There you go. Yeah, no, it's I loved Mario 64 playing it. I I hated collecting 100 coins in every level. That made me want to shoot myself. But outside of that, I had such a blast with it. It just controlled so well, especially in its time. If you were playing nothing but, if you were playing nothing but Nintendo 64 games, you were playing so many of them, and you were used to the controller, and you were used to how jank the games were at the time. You could play Mario 64 like a god. You could, you weren't hampered by it. You go back to it now, you might get hung up a bit. You could probably still play pretty well, but it's still like it presents itself not quite as well as it did back then when you were playing all those N64 games. Yeah, then you watch Sigil Mike or whatever.
And you're like, well, shit.
I'm terrible.
I just completely never knew how to play this game at all.
Get wrecked. Yeah, but it was so good. Music was fantastic. Everything was just so very good. And reflections in that game.
Yeah.
The mirror room. How freaking awesome was the mirror room back then?
Yep.
That was good stuff.
Awesome was
Even if you go in,
that was good
stuff.
stuff.
Look at 3D game platformers even now, and they still don't get nearly as elegant as Mario did back then. It's impressive.
It's one thing that
they've had over
Nintendo's
decades
always
and
done
they can't
well.
do it right.
Yeah, they've always done Mario well.
Absolutely,
for the most part.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, at this point, if they don't, it's a problem. So they need to kind of have to.
Yeah, they definitely need.
They need to have a mastery there of that.
So, all right, now I believe we're moving on. If I'm not mistaken.
We're going
now
on to
I can
ones.
count. We're moving on to number ones. We're doing it, friends. It's happening. So panic, man. What we've made it down here. We've done some obscure stuff. You and I's for sure more obscure than Mr. Black on some of these. But what is your number one game?
You already know the answer to this one. It's clear. If you walk into my apartment, just straight down the hallway as you walk in, there's artwork for this game.
Yeah.
Various kinds, limited edition, collector's edition, hell, even custom commission pieces I've had done. But the number one game is going to be the Mass Effect series. If I had to pick one from the series, it's going to be Mass Effect 2. But overall, just like Mass Effect as a whole, I've sunk over 200 hours into each of the titles. Mass Effect 3 is going on almost 300. I'm super pumped for next week, even though a little concerned, but we'll see how that goes. But it's just like everything about it, like from the first game to the third game, like as the games evolve, we got more mechanics, the games got better, technically more excellent, the storylines were fantastic. Even Mass Effect 3, like people hated on the ending, but for me, I was content with it. I'm like, these guys set out to tell a story, they told their story. Even without the additional ending stuff, like when they added it in, I'm like, cool.
It could have been worse than it was. Let's be honest. That could have ended so much worse than it did.
I got my experience. Like I had 6-something years of game time with it, and I enjoyed every minute of it. I was like always excited for when the next one was coming out. I played each game multiple times from different angles. I mean, there was that one moment where literally I was doing my full Renegade playthrough, and I was sitting there, and I took the Renegade action. And I literally, as soon as it happened, I paused the game, put the controller down, and just sat silently for a second. I'm like, I'm not that much of an asshole. I can't. I saved some and went back, and I'm like, I'm doing a full Renegade run, but even I can't let that one go.
Yeah,
and I was just like,
it was good for that. It was good for that. No. Mass Effect. Mass Effect as a series as
We've
well.
We've gone
for
back
me.
and forth about this.
Yeah, I put it would have been towards the top of my list in terms of in the 8 through 10 region, but other games kind of I swapped them out for other reasons. I really, really, really loved the first Mass Effect and the second Mass Effect, and the first Mass Effect engrossed me. In terms of games that took all of my attention, and had me completely sold on everything within the game's universe, Mass Effect is on a short list. The first game specifically. The Codex thing blew my mind when I first played the game.
Yeah.
It was so awesome to be able to go in and have all of that voiceover work done and to be able to learn about it. And it all sounded so legitimate and so grounded that you could believe it and be okay with everything that they sold you on in the game itself. people pick on 1 for being a little janky. Outside of the
It
Mako,
doesn't hold
which,
up, but it was still a good game.
no,
Back when it came out. When it came out, it was revolutionary. Fine.
I would have preferred them to just kind of stay on the same path as 1 for the rest of the games gameplay wise and just polish it. I can appreciate where 3 was mechanically. It played really, really well, but I would have preferred a polished Mass Effect 1 to the product that we've got in 3 gameplay wise.
I don't know. The way I would see it is gameplay-wise, Mass Effect kind of linearly increased from 1 to 3. Like, I feel like every game that came, like, Mass Effect 1 was great. 2, like, really refined the model and made it much more playable for, like, and hold the test of time.
Mhm.
And 3 just kind of perfected the system they had. Like, using biotics or using the abilities in 3 was just so much more refined, even on a controller, than it was on Mass Effect 1. Like, Mass Effect 1 was clunky. It played well and it was fine, but 3 like had it down like pat, like it was a solid game. Storyline wise though, I will say Mass Effect 1 was definitely the best story. It kind of did go downhill between the 3 games, but even then the low point of Mass Effect 3 was still really high comparative to other games that are out there.
I remember when the Mass Effect 2 trailer came out at E3, and I was still so high on Mass Effect 1, and I saw the Normandy come out and the soundtrack. I can't remember the name of the track that they played for the trailer, but it was so perfect. The soundtrack for the Mass Effect series was so well done and so perfect for the series. And when I saw that trailer,
oh my God.
it was a nerdgasm that I haven't had like anything like that in a long time. Like, I like other games more, but the nerdgasm I had for Mass Effect 2's trailer release at E3 was incredible. And I agree, Mass Effect 2 is an absolutely stellar game as well. I'm not even going to say I'm cautiously optimistic for Andromeda. I think it's going to be a step, 2 or 3 steps backwards for the franchise in a number of ways, and we'll probably talk about that after the game comes out and at least a couple of us get a chance to play it. I know I'm going to eventually play it. Panic's going to probably play it day 1. But
oh, it's already preloaded, bro.
Yeah, so I like we'll hear straight from Panic next week about it, I'm sure. But yeah, I very much can agree with Mass Effect being a top spot for sure. No problems at all with that.
If you see me really depressed on Friday, you'll know why.
Yeah.
I can't chime in too much about it because really Adam's got me into the thing is I'm a different gamer than Adam, and we both play a lot of games. I enjoy a lot of the games that Adam does. Adam has always been a guy that has enjoyed single player stuff, story driven games, stuff like that, puzzle game stuff, and I enjoy all those things. It's just that my career has taken me into a place where I haven't had that luxury to be able to enjoy games for what they are, to be able to play, say, Mass Effect because I want to play Mass Effect, or, get into the Fallout series because I want to get into Fallout series, or whatever the case may be. Adam has had that luxury over myself, and same probably with you too, Panic. Even since you do have a 9 to 5, so to speak, your free time is you're going to play these games. You're a gamer.
8 to 6.
8 to 6. For me, it was all about playing StarCraft. It was about playing a competitive game. I didn't have time to do it, and on my free time, the last thing I wanted to do was play video games. And I went from one competitive game to League of Legends, and now I'm playing RuneScape. But the thing is where I'm getting at with this is I played Mass Effect. Adam actually lent me a copy of his Mass Effect and said, dude, you got to play this. Just like when he told me I had to play Fallout 3. I went out and bought Fallout 3 and I beat it in one sitting. These were the days when Adam and I would sit on Xbox Live and literally just sit there and play single player games and just kind of have each other on as background noise, talking about our experiences. I remember sitting down and playing and beating Fallout in one sitting. Some people were gonna be like, what the fuck, you must have literally just done the entire story.
It's
and that's
possible.
Pretty much what I did.
That's it. Yeah,
very little other stuff, but I tried it with Mass Effect, and the first Mass Effect I put in about 6 to 8 hours. I played it, and I don't want to be that guy for the sake of arguing, but I just couldn't get into it. I always felt like it was.
It's a dense game.
Yeah, I always felt like it was trying to be Knights of the Old Republic, but just wasn't there. I felt like it was trying too hard to just create a universe, and that's great. I love the fact that they were going for it, but there's something about the story, there's something about the characters that felt a little dull. I didn't get attached to anybody. I felt like there was a lot of choices for the sake of choices, and the pacing of the game wasn't right for me. Could I be totally wrong? Absolutely. I can't sit here and judge the Mass Effect franchise on 6 to 8 hours of gameplay. It would be a disservice to the franchise. I'm sure it's incredible. And there may come a day where I'll sit down and actually play the franchise, whether I do it as a job or I do it as for fun. But for the 6 to 8 hours that I've given it, and it's the kind of the same thing with me. My time is limited now, so it's almost like I have to get hooked on a franchise and play it because I want to and love it, or I'm just not going to play it. It's the same thing with TV shows. I'm going to watch 3 or 4 episodes. If I can't get hooked, I can't get hooked. Sometimes you watch a good television show that takes you a half a season to really get into the fucking meat, and I think that's probably what Mass Effect is. I think as though I may have played 6 to 8 hours of it, didn't get too far into the story, didn't give it enough of a chance, and so I haven't clicked with it. So I'm that guy. Had you
not said that last paragraph or 2 paragraphs of stuff, I would have said you're entitled to your opinion, but I hate you and you're wrong. But you saved yourself with that last paragraph saying I'm doing a disservice, but okay. So I'm like, I accept you, Jeff.
I respect that. And I respect your love for Mass Effect and the fact that so many people love it and so many people were angry at the end of Mass Effect 3. It tells you how great of a franchise it really is. It's unfortunate I never got hooked, and I can't share this discussion a little bit more in depth with you guys. I just never got into it.
No, just to tell you right now, honestly, I can't, if I were to, I'm very hard for me to go back and play games again. I played each of the Mass Effects multiple times, but for me, especially with Mass Effect 1, I tried going back and playing it again, right around the time Mass Effect 3 was coming out, and I got 2 hours into it, and I'm like, I cannot play this game. It's too clunky. It didn't age well for me gameplay mechanic wise, and I'm like, I love this game so much, but I can't do it after playing 2 and 3. I'm like, it's not gonna work. It didn't hold up. 2 and 3 hold up much better, but yeah, it's one of those things that if you can't get into it, I can definitely see it being hard to follow through on.
Yep. Yeah, 100%. Because I think Panic hit it right on. It's a super dense franchise. It's not something that you can necessarily.
You're not just plopping in.
No, you can't superficially play Mass Effect. You have to get in, or it's going to be a bad time kind of deal. But for sure, I can see that. I think just as a prelude to what we'll probably talk about after Panic plays this game and we talk about it next week, I think what makes Mass Effect also really important is that it popularized and really made a point of making it a part of the game, the conversation system and how those conversations played out and the movie style dialogue that went on between. Now you can talk about how the back and forth might have been a bit janky and a bit awkward, but the style of it, and then look at how many games have just taken that and ran with it kind of thing. Now obviously BioWare before with Knights of the Old Republic and stuff did shades of that, but Mass Effect really took that and made it a part of the game proper. And so with Andromeda, that's why I think a lot of people are up in arms about how janky the animations are. It's stripping one of the main pillars of Mass Effect out of the game. And when you remove that, if the rest of the game isn't really damn good, then you're going to catch heat for it. Whether or not other games don't do it well.
Bar is high
either.
Bar is really high.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, for sure. Speaking of the bar being high, number 1 for me. As far as a critically acclaimed game goes, well, we can do Jeff. We can do Jeff first. I just run my mouth for so damn long.
Go
yeah,
ahead.
everybody knows. I just wanted to, I thought about giving Jeff's 2 for a second because I talked too damn much. But the top game for me is Morrowind. I think that's the most obvious thing for anybody that knows me as a gamer. And like as a game mechanically or like objectively, you look at it and it's one of the most broken games to have ever been made in the history of video games. Jeff's gonna go get probably a copy of it right now. He's got Tribunal and everything up there, yeah. So
I did not expect
Morrowind. Morrowind, yeah, right. So there it is, Morrowind, Tribunal, and Blood Moon. So Morrowind is my favorite game of all time by miles. Morrowind, I played Morrowind on the Xbox, and I don't know anybody, because I didn't have a PC that could play it, right? And I didn't, so I never had that experience. If you played Morrowind on the Xbox, like, you deserve a badge that said, I survived Morrowind.
I'm one of those guys.
I survived Morrowind on the Xbox because the loading screen to enter a house was like 3 hours. And then you go in and you only entered the house to find out it wasn't the house that you needed and you needed to leave again. And then it was another like 3.5 minutes of loading screen. And it just took so damn long. But outside of that, Morrowind is such an incredible game. I can even go back and play it now with the jankiness and kind of be like whatever about it. I think what really captured me as a kid was when I got it, and I played that opening, and you're in Saint Denis, and you get off the ship, and you say hi to Jeff on the ship before walking down and talking to the guard. It's like one, I don't know if Jeff remembers this. There's the guy that's right at the top of the ship.
The black dude
with black dude. So I always say hi, Jeff, every time I pass by him on the ship. I'm like, hey, what's up? I go down, and I just remember, picking my character and being so caught up in... Morrowind was probably the game that made me so particular about my character creation in every other game that happened since Morrowind. Because in Morrowind, really, depending on what you chose as your main gigs, it either made your early game a nightmare or it wasn't so bad. And Morrowind was super unforgiving in that regard. And I mean, some people might say it wasn't, but I would say it's probably because you don't remember your first stab at it. Now you've gone back and you're like, all the little tricks of the trade and stuff. But in general, if you didn't have any guide and you went in, it was super unforgiving, but I loved that about it. The little thing that I always say that blew my mind as a kid was when you leave the office with your paperwork and you're off to Balmora, and you open the door and the game pops up this little text box that says, that's it. I'm paraphrasing here, but it's like, that's it. You're on your own. Good luck. And that's no hand holding. There's not a marker that tells you where this, thing is going to be. There's no compass with a thing. There's no waypoint. You're going to read your journal. It's going to name something. You can talk to people sometimes and they'll give you a description that vaguely resembles what you're looking for. And you've got a map that is the size of China and you got to go and find it. And so the adventuring of Morrowind felt like adventuring because you literally had no idea where the hell you were going 80% of the time, especially on the Xbox because the draw distance was about 3.5 centimeters. So you'd see out in front of you, one character in front of you, and then a fog wall. And that was all you could see. There was nothing beyond it. It was just like you were in Silent Hill the whole time. And you'd walk in and you'd hear the enemy thing chime in the background for the music. And you'd be like, where the hell is it? Because I can't see more than 3 feet in front of me. And all of a sudden there'd be, a cliff racer just fucking you from above. And then there'd be 6 or 7 more cliff racers. And then you're running away and soon there's like this entire horde of like 40 cliff racers fucking coming at you. And because in Morrowind, everything was a dice roll, you have like the sword out and you're hitting them, but because your one-handed sword is so bad, you're not actually hitting them, and it takes you 45 minutes to kill like a rat, and you're just standing there like swinging over and over again and nothing's hitting. It's just such a silly, crazy experience, and it has so much character, and it has character that Oblivion didn't get and Skyrim didn't get. And it has because of that character and the locations are all so different and varied, it made you want to go look and explore places. And you could still use the levitate spell. As soon as they introduced stuff in Oblivion where you had to enter a town through a door, levitate went out the window. You had to use paintbrushes and stack them into thin air to jump up somewhere if you wanted to get there because there was no levitate. But in Morrowind, there's like the silly things you remember. Like you'd use a levitate spell, you'd go up a mountain. I went into a mountain with levitate randomly, found this little crevice in this mountain, and there was a Daedric gauntlet, and it blew my mind. It was incredible. Don't you dare X me on Morrowind. I'm gonna talk about Morrowind for the rest of my life.
Adam, I'm going to ask you one question before you continue. How many Morrowind playthroughs on Twitch have you actually finished?
None.
0.
Just a restart
0.
over and over.
That's
and
the
over
question
again.
everyone wants to know because you started like 20. I always see your runs end. You create Bolton, you get to the mud crab.
Oh, 0.
I would add in on Morrowind. I played a lot of it just like Adam did on the original Xbox. But that's all I'll say. I mean, I think Adam has given a perfectly good description of the game. It's a great game. The fact that it's number 1 for you just doesn't surprise me, and that speaks volumes because whenever you don't know what the fuck to play and you're just like, you know what, I'm just gonna play Morrowind. It's a good default, and I love it as well. I've got all of them here. I've got it on Xbox. I've got it all 3 versions on PC, the original and the expansions. Great game. Love Morrowind.
Oh yeah, it's. Panic. Have you played through?
How many
played through
playthroughs?
Morrowind?
A long time ago, I did like probably 1.5 playthroughs. The Elder Scrolls games in general didn't like hold me. I don't like games where I'm just like let loose on the world. I like them and I understand the technical excellence behind them, but it's kind of like Jeff with Mass Effect.
Yeah.
For me, it's like I like a deep-seated story where I'm following along with some vision. Morrowind has a deep-seated story, but it's not. It's more of a you explore the story.
You have to go and
I enjoy, but
it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's too many other games to play. There's always been too many games to play that I can't sit.
Yeah.
It's like the analogy. I'll make a stupid analogy that I'll just make up right now on the fly. It's as if you're a child and your parents take you to Disneyland and they drop you off at Disney and they say, go have fun. And you just go and, there's maybe 3 rides
You don't know what to do.
As a kid, you play over and over and over again. But then as you get older, you talk to other people that have been to Disney, you go, haven't you gone on this? Haven't you gone on that? And be like, no, I've just been doing the same 3 rides over because it's been fucking awesome. I have so many choices.
Yeah.
I've just been doing this.
It's
and
true.
if there's no kind of guidance, if there's no kind of tour guide or anything, you kind of miss some of the magic that's in there. And I loved Morrowind because it was open. It was those type of games for me are a little too open. Back in the day, I think I played it a lot because you played it a lot, and it was just we both played it together, and it was like almost who's gonna find great armor. It was sort of a competition, and how far could we get and level up and all this other stuff. But to hold my attention, kind of like Panic, I don't need my handheld. I just need some kind of direction because I lose focus very quickly. And if nothing happens within an hour or 2 hours and I feel like I haven't progressed in some way, then I just kind of get disconnected with the game. And Morrowind done that. Skyrim has done that. Pretty much the entire Elder Scrolls franchise has done that. And to some, that's amazing. Some people just love, and you're one of those people that just loves to be dropped off and say, go explore, go. There is no right way on how to do things, go.
That's why Witcher 3 didn't make my list. It's a phenomenal masterpiece of a game, but like Morrowind and all of them, it's just way too big. It's like you're dropped in and you have it's too much freedom. Like when I play a game, I want to have some specific kind of experience. Yeah, sometimes I want an open world sandbox, but other times, I just want to play through a story. I want to get like the artistic vision or whatever that the developers were trying to push. But when you put it in an open world, yeah, that's got some kind of thing to it. But I feel a story or what they're trying to convey kind of suffers a bit because you're not really coming at it in the way that was kind of intended. It's you take your own approach on it, which has its merits, but
yeah, sometimes when you take your own approach, like you'll retain more. Like that's my problem with some games. If they handhold me too much, then I'll lose attention for that reason. Yep. Like I feel like I'm not invested enough, so I don't remember it. But like, yeah, so I'm one of those people. I do like an open world. I think the first time I played the game, I played 500 hours on one file and never beat the main story.
Yep. I believe
and
that.
then I never beat Morrowind until like 5 years into me owning the game. I went back and said I should probably beat this game, and I started from scratch and I played all over. Because in the original 500 hours, I got one of the items you need to beat the game, and because I was over encumbered and I didn't know it was an item you needed to beat the game, I dropped it on a road somewhere in the northern part of the map. Rip. That's it.
Rip.
And we were on the Xbox. There was no console command to be like, give me this shield. So it was rip in pieces. Reset, 500 hours. Let's go. Mr. Black, you're up.
Yes.
Number one
Yes.
game. Bring us home.
I mean, it's obvious. I mean, the last game is the best game ever created, for me, obviously. And,
Hello Kitty Island Adventure.
No. It is, of course.
Something.
StarCraft Brood War.
Yeah.
For those
The battle
that are
chest.
listening to this on audio, I'm holding it up.
Yeah.
Like Adam with Morrowind, I could talk about Brood War forever, and I'm not gonna do that to you. But what I will say is, StarCraft Brood War is not only the greatest esport game of all time.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It is the most competitive. It was the most difficult, high skill capped. Just I don't even know where to start. It's almost like I had to prep a speech for this. The game is for one, it all started here. It all started right here.
Yeah.
StarCraft
the N64 version. Yeah.
Holding this up right now. StarCraft 64. Me and my cousin Coleus, we went to Blockbuster, and we were looking for Star Fox. And at the time, Star Fox 64 was the fucking goat. Everybody wanted to do a barrel roll. And so we went there, and it was sold out.
Father helped me like that too.
And it was, you know, when you go to Blockbuster or Rogers Video or whatever video place you rented games back in the day, because that's what we did as gamers. For all you youngins out there, we used to rent games. You used to go there, and you'd have the new releases. There would be like 30 copies. Like literally 30 copies on the wall. 3/4 of the wall was the new game.
One copy,
You've had a couple of other things, and then there was one copy of StarCraft 64. All of Star Fox was gone, and we went up to the cash, because sometimes if you were smart enough, a lot of people didn't know this, but I'm sure a lot of you guys did. If you were smart enough, you'd go up to the desk and you'd say, do you guys have any copies of Star Fox behind there that people have just passed in before it goes up on the wall? You know, you go to the wall, they don't have it. You gotta go to the counter and ask them.
Because they had like the mail slot that they had to lift up the mail slot and drop it in. And you're like, what's in that box?
You've got a bunch of 18-year-olds working that don't give a fuck. They're not in any kind of rush to get the games back up on the wall. You just gotta go there and ask them if they got it in the bin. You got it in the bin back there. So we went up there, we asked them, you guys got Star Fox? No, they ain't got Star Fox. So my cousin Coleus, God bless him. If there's a God out there, bless him, please. He said, let's get StarCraft. And I was like, dude, what the fuck is StarCraft? And I was, I love my cousin. You've met Coleus many times.
Coleus awesome.
He's just an amazing person. And he's not an alpha, he's a follower. He's the follower type, has always been that way. He just goes with the flow, and there's nothing wrong with that. And I was the guy that, he would come over my house in the summer, and he would stay with me like literally 5 days out of the week, or we'd be at my grandmother's house and we'd stay there. And I was the guy that always called the shots. I was the guy that was like, dude, this is the movie we're watching tonight. This is what we're having for dinner. Yeah. These are the games we're playing. And he would just love being there and having fun, because he was in a big family, and he never got to, hang out and have a good time. And so when he came to my house, it was like a fucking summer retreat. So he was just down for whatever, whenever. And when he finally suggested a game, I had to put my ego aside and say, you know what, Coleus? Yeah, fuck yeah. You pick a game for once. Star Fox wasn't available. Sure, man. You go ahead and you pick your StarCraft. So we went and got StarCraft 64, and this game right here is the game that changed everything for me. I know I've said that 3 times during this podcast, but I can honestly say, without StarCraft 64,
there would be no Brood War.
There would be no Brood War, and without Brood War, there would be no StarCraft 2.
There'd be no StarCraft 2. Yeah.
This that in that moment, I owe Coleus so much because I would have you're not going to run out and get StarCraft 64. It's just not a game. It was horribly made. It's a garbage, and that's why I haven't. This is why it's not my number one game. I'm just showing it because it's here. But when I got StarCraft 64 with my cousin, the first night I got it, I pulled a 24-hour grind of playing StarCraft 64. Coleus went to sleep. I was still playing. I obsessed. I had the game for so long that it was well overcharged. I didn't take it back. I ended up having to buy out the game from Blockbuster. Then on top of it, my cousin, when he would come over, I'd be like, dude, you want to come over and play StarCraft? He was tired of playing. He's like, dude, I don't want to play StarCraft anymore. Like, we've been playing this. He's like, why don't you just get on the PC? And I was like, what? On the PC. and so when he told me that it
blew your mind
that there was an expansion for the for the PC, I couldn't fucking believe it. I instantly went out, said, Mom, you got to give me the money. Of course, my mom gave me the money. I went out, got StarCraft 64 StarCraft Brood War, this right here, the battle chest. That's what I started because I never played the original StarCraft on PC until I beat the campaign. But I always went right to the Brood War. And when I started playing Brood War, that was the show for me. I became obsessed. I burnt it for everybody on the street. I was playing this game religiously. It was, you couldn't get me out of the house. When I had a bad mark in school or I was the class clown, my dad would punish me from StarCraft Brood War. He'd hide my discs. It was, and when I remember getting punished and going over Adam's house and playing the game, Adam wouldn't even be home. I'd go over his house. He'd be over at his grandmother's. I'd go over his house, and his parents would just be like, yeah, I was part of the family. Like, yeah, come on in. I'd go into his computer room, and Janice would have to ask me, yo, Jeff, can I use my computer? Like, yo, I got to make a phone call. Can I use the phone? Because it was dial-up. Whenever I got grounded, I was over there, and then my dad found out I was going over Adam's house to play Brood War, and then he would punish me from going over Adam's house. It was my life. For many summers, that was the show. I obsessed with this game, and that is why when I heard StarCraft 2 came out, I got serious, and I made the reconnection with Adam, and I said, we got to start a YouTube channel. We got to do this. I was so fucking pumped. This is the game. This is the game. Brood War, the best game ever made. It's amazing. Still tens of thousands of people watch this shit. I could fuck the disc hole if it was fucking wider. I love this game so much. Blizzard, thank you. And this was the golden era of Blizzard. We're talking Diablo 2. We're talking Brood War. We're talking Warcraft 3. We're talking when Blizzard was the GOAT. This is it. This is it. Fuck League of Legends. Fuck Overwatch. Fuck Dota. Fuck CSGO. StarCraft Brood War is the show. I'm 100% biased, and I don't give a fuck. That's it. If I could drop this mic, I would, but it's $1,600 and I don't want to do it.
Yeah. Adam wins longest rant. Jeff wins loudest rant.
Yeah, I've got so much respect for Brood War. It's mad. I mean, we already talked about Brood War, but I could talk about it forever. I mean, I just wanted StarCraft 2 so badly to replace Brood War, and it never even approached it. Not even remotely close. Not the same universe, area code, whatever you want to say. Not even a little bit.
Nope.
Did StarCraft 2 do big things in esports in North America? Sure. Yeah, okay. Brood War could be... We talked about this off when we did our 5-hour thing yesterday. Test. In our 5-hour-long test.
Everything went perfectly. Everything
went smoothly, and then today it was a dumpster fire early on. But so... Brood War, if done in HD, and they didn't touch the balance... And they put it out with a BattleNet that wasn't StarCraft 2's BattleNet because that is a pile of assholes. And they just released that. It would finally kill StarCraft 2, and I wouldn't give a damn. I would go back to... Jeff and I would cast Brood War HD remastered games immediately.
I'm going to tell you right now, on the first episode of this podcast, if when Blizzard releases the Brood War HD version... And if there's ladder capabilities with replays and everything, I'm going to tell you right now, Adam and I will be back in StarCraft. But that is the only way we get back into StarCraft. And let me say this last thing about Brood War. The thing is with Brood War is StarCraft 2 has always been in Brood War shadow. They have always tried to make another Brood War that secret sauce, and in a way, it became more successful than what Brood War did in terms of basically birthing North American esports. I mean, without StarCraft 2, where would we be at right now in terms of Twitch and everything? But
it would be Quake. It would be QuakeCon.
It would be, and the thing is, guys, is with Brood War, and I'll say this, and I mean this. As great of a game as StarCraft 2 is, and the boundaries that they've crossed, and the great things that they've done for esports, I truly believe that StarCraft 2 will have a shelf life, and we're already seeing it die out. But Brood War will last forever. This will be a game that will be bigger than StarCraft 2. When StarCraft 2 finally, the last light dims, this will be the show. Brood War will live forever. It doesn't matter what games they produce, because how great and iconic this game is. I haven't even talked about the game itself. I'm just preaching about the game. I haven't even got into mechanically and everything else that they've done with it, because this would be a whole different podcast. But guys, number one, Brood War. Amen. That's it.
Amen.
That's it.
Preach! Can I get an amen?
That's it.
No amen? No nothing, no follow-up on that?
Amen.
Church. Amen.
Fuck. Church, preach.
That's the show. Well,
that's it.
We have gone over a 2-hour period.
I knew it was today. I knew it was going to be, because it's top 10. I knew it was going to last forever, but I don't care. It's the first one. I think we can give people a longer first podcast for the first episode of Technical Alpha. Guys, I hope for everybody watching on the stream, for those of you watching on YouTube, and for those listening outside of that and beyond, thank you so much for joining us on this first one. It didn't blow up as bad as it could have, so that was good.
We had some hiccups.
A little bit of bits, little hiccups here and there,
webcam and shit.
We can make it all come back around and make it work. We're excited about this new project. We hope you guys are too. We'll be back next week, same time, same place, 8 p.m. Eastern time. I'll let you guys do the math. It's GMT -5 to my knowledge. But you guys, we're excited, and hopefully you guys are too. You guys have any closing thoughts of your own?
Well, first off, I personally want to thank everybody for tuning in. Thank you for all the support. The Patreon page is blowing up. It's been great. We're going to give some shout out and some thank yous here towards the end. And also, I want to welcome Panic on the panel as well. And for those that don't really know who Panic
so glad to be here.
He has been a pillar in the LAGTV community. He was the guy who donated my first $100 so that I could go out and actually buy a webcam so people could see my face. He was the first fan that I flew out to New York to visit and spend time with. And he's been part of the growth and has been here since day one. I know a lot of people don't really know who Panic is. If you watch my stream or Adam's stream, you probably know, but the LAGTV community on YouTube, I mean, it's not a name that we've thrown out there too much, but on behalf of myself and Adam, we want to welcome you and thank you for the love that you've given us over the years. And there's a reason why you're here. There's a reason why you're here and not somebody else. And that's because you're awesome. And hopefully the community will appreciate you being here as well. And I'm very excited to see where the podcast goes. Obviously, this is the first one. We'll hammer through some hiccups. We do have a third guy here. Adam and I are used to knowing when to chime in on each other and knowing what buttons to push and when to do things. And these things will come in time now that we have three. We're also getting used to this. But it felt good. I enjoyed it. And the amount of support we're getting from the community is amazing as well. So that's my 2 cents. That's my 2 cents.
Yeah, 100%. All right, third guy, what do you got?
You guys enjoyed it too, yeah. Overall, I'm just really happy to be here. I'm happy it turned out as well as it did. I was expecting a raging dumpster fire today, but we only got a minor dumpster fire. So, my biggest thanks is probably going to be to Adam. He's like, I approached him a couple months ago saying, "Hey, do you want to do a podcast?" He's like, "Bro, I'm way ahead of you. I'm already trying to do a podcast." We got to make this happen. We're, balls rolling already. And then in the past like month or two, things have really picked up. So, I've done a bunch of stuff behind the scenes, like, Adam's come up with ideas, and then I've kind of executed on getting artwork done and all this other stuff. But Adam has literally been balls to the wall, website Adam, figuring out concepts for what to do, all the fonts and the design language is Adam. He'd usually just be like, I need this in some like very generic format.
You know what, Panic? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You know what, Panic? I'm sorry, bro. I'm fucking sorry. I feel like I'm on an episode of Bachelor, and you've got two choices, and I just poured out my life.
There's only one rose.
And you said, I'm sorry, motherfucker,
I got the rose.
but I love Adam. And now I just want to go and fucking jump off my house, and I want to break some bones
okay,
so
Jeff.
I suffer.
Jeff.
Fuck.
Jeff.
Jesus. I
Jeff.
take it all back.
I was gonna give Adam the rose, but then I was gonna give Adam the rose and then take Jeff to Five Guys. But okay.
Oh, denied.
Jeff, you missed the part where I'm gonna wait for him to put his headphones back on. Jeff, you missed the part where I was gonna give Adam the rose, but then fly you out for Five Guys.
Oh,
I don't know if you heard that.
that's a follow-up.
He's
Did Jeff
shaking
fuck
his
his
head.
own
I don't think he
audio in
hears.
the process?
Yeah,
Fuck.
he did. Jeff, you want to get a burger?
It's
Five Guys.
it's
I'm good. I'm fine. Don't worry about me. It's just my feelings. Don't worry about it.
they'll grow. Your feelings will
No,
grow
but
back.
I literally just sucked Panic's
No.
dick, and then he went around and said, "You know what? I really want to give a big thanks to Adam because Adam's great."
You didn't let me get to you, man.
No, it's fine,
I've been
bro.
with you since day one.
No, it's fine, bro. No, it's fine. It's okay.
Oh, you're up shit's creek without a paddle now. Continue while Jeff broods.
Big thanks to Jeff. No, it's overall. I'm really excited for the project. I'm excited to see where it goes. I was completely blown away by the community. You guys have been insane. Just the amount of Patreon support we've been getting. We've been getting sick numbers of responses on Twitter and all of our messaging, and it's just been phenomenal. So I'm really excited to see where this goes, especially with the community. And then Jeff over there, he's kind of just fading into black, but we still love him.
Oh, thank you.
We still love you. We still love you. Jeff brings the personality. Without Jeff, this would be one of the most boring podcasts of all time. It'd just be so stale.
It'd be like this, listening to
this whole podcast.
Thank you, Adam. You got me sitting up a little bit. Thank you, Adam. Fuck.
This whole podcast.
Fuck.
This whole podcast would have been me talking about Persona 4 for like 3.5 hours, and then eventually.
And then he'd be like,
Panic
"Oh yeah,"
would have been like, and then Panic would have been like, "Yeah," and then there's FreeSpace, which is pretty neat. I'd be like, "Yeah, but what about Persona 4 though?"
Fuck.
It would have been the whole thing. No, I think we're gonna. I think
I love you, baby.
Well.
I know.
That's right. We got nothing but love. No, you guys, the community has been. I'm gonna say for a third time, bring it back around full circle. The community. It has been incredible beyond belief, and it's going to sound stupid and cheesy every time we say it because, like, half of you wants to just believe that we're saying it because we have to, but in reality, it's completely insane to me that there would be people out there that were willing to put up as much money as you guys did before we even had content. Like we were a ways out, and we released the Patreon, and in the first like 24 hours, we cracked $1,000, and I was like, oh my god, like it speaks to how much faith you guys have in us, which might be misplaced, but we love you for it because it means that it can give us some comfort that we're gonna do something that we really enjoy, but it's also you guys are on the same page. Which as a content creator is one of the greatest things that you can experience is when you create something that you want to create and your community is there and is as excited about it as you are.
Yeah.
That makes you feel so good because it gives you that drive to want to get up and do it again.
The dream for a lot of content providers and Panic is new to this because he's kind of becoming a content provider now.
Yeah.
But it's, I can speak for myself, and I'm sure I can kind of speak for Adam, is when you're placed in a box and you do something for so long, it becomes work, and although the work is amazing and I wouldn't trade it for any other regular type of work or whatever the case may be, it becomes work. And when you want to move and you're afraid to move because of repercussions, whether fans that have supported you for so long will hate you because you're getting away from your grassroots, or they just might not take they might not like you for what you are. I mean, even there's a level of acting to what we have done over the years. We are true to who we are. And you're going to get that a lot more in this podcast. But we Adam and I can speak for us. We have been NovaWar and MaximusBlack for 6 years, and although we have stayed as authentic as we can, we have been confined, and we have done something and played up to those characters for a reason and a purpose. And it is nice that we can kind of break out of that shell a little bit and expand on who we are as gamers and give you guys our thoughts on things that are going on besides StarCraft. And although we have kind of always had a podcast, this is a place where, we can just go on tangents and we can talk the way that we would talk between Adam and I privately and bring that to you guys. And it's amazing to have people support that, because usually when you take those leaps of faith, it is a leap of faith and it's a huge risk, whether it will work or not. And it makes it so much easier. And we get much more excited knowing that we have a community backing us on this transition, that we don't really have to worry too much about, A, financially, or B, if people are going to like it or not. It's being shown. We're almost halfway to our first stretch goal, and we are now finishing up the first podcast. So we really do want to say thank you. We're very fortunate. There's not a lot of entertainers out there that can make the switch like we have, and have this kind of overwhelming support. So for that, thank you. It's been incredible, and I actually look forward to these podcasts every Friday night. I don't care, for the first time, I don't care about my own personal stream. I don't care about the amount of money I'll lose. I don't care about the amount of time, it takes, or, what my wife is doing upstairs waiting for me to get off I don't give a fuck. The only thing I care about is making this content, being here with you guys, and enjoying this new process. And for the first time since the birth of When Cheese Fails and how big LAGTV had gotten, I am finally excited to be working on a project again, not about the money, not about the fame, not about any of these underlining things, but just to make it and see where it goes.
And shoot
110%. I'm a little distracted because Windows 10 keeps trying to tell me to restart my computer, and I'm like, no. How about not right now would be a great idea if we could avoid that.
So with that being said, if you guys want to go and support our Patreon page, the link will be in the description.
We've got that sellout screen. No, but we are going to wrap it up there. I've got some shout outs to do, because speaking of the patrons, we have a whole host of people that have gone the extra mile to really major back us, like marathon, more like it. Head on over to this screen. We like I say in the little sellout video thing that I put together, that I think probably even the audio guys will get some form of that as well. Like I said in that, honestly, we ham up the sellout thing all the time. Jeff especially got to the point where it was like its own meme on the channel, right? It's just sellout thing, because you have to kind of embrace it a bit to do this business proper, and so we joke about it all the time. But
and it's awkward
in actuality, it is awkward too. But in actuality, you have to get paid to keep doing this stuff if you're going to do it, as often as and for as long as we have. And you guys make that happen. And some of you guys, even if you can't afford to support us, donations, subscriptions, Patreon, whatever, that's fine. If you're here and you're watching and you're participating in all of our stuff, that is a substantial amount of support in its own right, and we are super happy to have everyone here doing that. Of course, in this regard, we're going to give some major thank yous to several people who have put in a whole lot of money up front in our Patreon campaign. You can see there's some available spots here that I've left open. And then they'll be filled over time, and sometimes we'll be swapping people out depending on who's there for the month. But we got to give a big shout out to Beastall at the $500 tier.
Goddamn.
$500.
Goddamn.
So Beastall at that, just to give you guys an idea, he's gonna get an unreleased poster that we haven't even invented yet. That's going to be printed off and signed by the three of us and sent out to him along with a bunch of other stuff, pins, stickers. Jeff's going to do a noise, like a hit me up with that noise of whatever he can come up with. He's going to get a lot for that, but it doesn't matter because it's $500 and none of that actually adds up to anything remotely resembling $500. So you're a god.
Thank you.
For $500. Thank you so much. Northern Flow and Mr. Miyagi. Yeah, absolutely. $250 out of these gentlemen. Incredible support as well. They're going to get lots of good stuff. I'm not going to say what everybody gets here. You can see on Patreon. And then everybody else here also fantastic $100 tier that we had to create the tiers above these guys because the demand was so high, which blew my mind. We had to actually create more tiers. We have Corey K, Toad of Steel, Naily, J.A., Matt D, Derek P, Jonathan A, Ryan M, Ice Wolfie, and Beastly Barlow. All of you gentlemen and possibly ladies, I don't know. Who knows with some of these names up here, but thank you guys so much.
Is that Matt Damon?
That is Matt Damon. Matt Damon.
I was gonna say
Matt, look.
Go ahead.
No. I was gonna make a bad Matt Damon joke. We can ignore that.
I was gonna say we had one 100 spot open because Beastall went up to the big 500, but it looks like somebody already taken that.
Oh, it filled it. Beastall moved up, and then Beastly Barlow today moved in, and that's why the last second before I was going live, I'm editing this shit, trying to get it all to be lined up. I was on the move, but we made it happen. So thank you guys so much. We call you guys the Patreon producers, but in reality, pretty much everybody watching who's supported, you guys are all the reason why this show happens. And before we come around full circle for the 85th time, that's going to be it for the first episode of Technical Alpha. I guess we haven't even come up with how we're going to sign out on this, so I'm just going to say until next time. Should we use our handles? What do we do, gentlemen? Let's do this on the fly. What are we doing? Quick brainstorm. How do we sign it out?
Go with our names, man. Let's go with our names.
I'm gonna say, I'm MaximusBlack.
Okay, I'm NovaWar.
I'm #3rd guy. PanicSwitched.
Yes! You bought into your own meme.
Yes.
I am the meme.
Thank you guys so much for watching. And until we see you again, have a good one.
Statisticity.